right, welcome to the Redacted Apostate. Today, we're going to go over the Michael Proctor's text messages involving the Karen Reed case.
So not a cult today.
Not a cult today. No, but some fascinating things with possible police putting a crime on someone that didn't commit it. But mainly we're going to focus on the text because they're kind of off the wall and a little bit hilarious too.
Are they? I didn't think they were hilarious at all. So that's the problem I have with this. That this testimony wasn't funny at all to me when I was looking at it. I was more horrified than anything.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I mean when I say funny. Like, funny is in the sense of I can't believe that someone would say this kind of stuff.
A community servant, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess everyone has a bad day, but he went out of his way to be awful.
Well, he had a bad week. He didn't have a bad day. This wasn't one day. This was multiple days of multiple texts.
Yeah.
To not only himself, his friends, his colleagues that he works with in the police department, and the police chief as well.
Yep.
So this isn't one person saying one thing. This is one person saying many things to many different people and getting LOLs back, and this is hilarious.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some really horrible language.
Real offensive
We are
language.
going to block it all because nobody needs to hear that, especially from this guy. Yeah, he's a piece of work.
So Michael Proctor's testimony, we'll just start listening and then tell me when you want to pause it to talk about what you think.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was just handed a copy of the text messages. Oh, another question I had.
Yeah.
Where did these text messages come from?
Well, that's interesting because as we were watching these, we had this question of why would the police department turn over their own private texts to both the prosecution and the defense? And that made no sense to me.
Yeah.
And what we've learned, and this is what's great, there is an ongoing FBI investigation dealing with corruption within the Boston Police Department, specifically with the people that are involved. So the FBI were actively, which I'm assuming through a warrant, were actively monitoring all of their phone calls and text messages and emails. So
Before this happened.
So
the FBI was investigating this group of people, and then this event happened, and they were already wiretapping and had warrants for their information.
Yeah. And the thing that you don't know is whether or not, because I'm sorry to stop on that, but I have a feeling that the FBI saw these texts and phone calls going through and was like, "Oh, screw it, we're going to send this over to the both teams." And they had to submit because it's evidentiary, so they had to submit it to both departments. But so all this information came out, and they still went through with this trial.
Yeah, that's the baffling thing about this.
Yeah. So and the more you learn about this case, the more you are baffled on how we got here.
Yeah.
Because there's pretty obvious at this point that there's a huge cover up on everybody involved. And now there's still no real direct evidence that says these people did that or did this. So, at this point we can't say yes, they did it. But you sure are covering up a lot of things that for people that weren't involved.
Yeah.
In the house where the police officer was found, or where his body was found, just the cover up that's just involved in that one house, and all the things that happened after this investigation kicked off makes no sense.
And do you think that's why this is such everyone's following this case, is because we haven't seen, we all knew the Boston Police Department was corrupt. I think that's just national knowledge, right?
Yeah.
But this is the first time we've actually really seen it in practice, other than the movies. I mean, there's movies and TV shows about how corrupt Boston Police Department is.
Yeah.
But this is the first time we've seen it in real life in our faces.
You're right. And my feeling is that when, and the guy that we listened to, uh, S.A., I think it's like McPherson or something like that. I'm sure everybody that, that's watching.
McDonough?
Yeah, McDonough, S.A.
El
McDonough.
Jefe?
Yeah. 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 He kind of had the same thing. He was like, oh, there was a woman charged because she accidentally hit her boyfriend who was a police officer, and he was just like, okay. And that was it. That was his beginning and end of the whole conversation, was just kind of like, okay,
Yeah.
accidents happen, drunk, whatever, blah, 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 I'll move on past this. But when the information and the evidence starts coming out, you realize this is not a drunk accidental homicide.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it still could be. I mean, that's the thing.
It's a good whodunit, yeah.
But it's all of the attachments to, like, if it was purely she was drunk, she hit him, accidentally killed him, let the evidence stand as it is. But the way that the evidence is like magic bulleting around, like all of a sudden, oh, hey, we got this evidence 2 days later after we have, a vehicle and stuff like that. I think that's what's so intriguing about this case.
Yeah. And it's all these testosterone, steroid fueled police officers. And then these text messages are very clear how they behave.
Did you say Mexican?
Text-Mex. Yeah.
No, now I'm hungry for tacos.
Yeah. And the accents add another thing to this, which is really funny too, because they all have such thick accents, and I couldn't figure out what they were saying.
Yeah.
When they kept saying Trooper Proctor, I kept thinking they were calling him Chupacabra. I was like, what? Why are they talking about a Chupacabra? But no, it's Trooper Proctor.
Yes.
But in their thick accents, it's Chupacabra.
What I also love too is they made fun of Karen Reed's accent.
And I will get to that, why they said that, because there's a reason I found out on Twitter why they said that. Yeah, why he said it. So he's more of a gross human. This is the person our taxpayer dollars are paying for.
Well, not ours, but yeah, people of Boston. They probably pay his. We probably don't pay his salary, but I would imagine the people in Boston do.
Yeah.
And they should be ashamed.
They should be outraged, but they've been living with this for decades. So they're like, yeah, that's just how.
Well, it's like in Russia, Putin stole the election. Yeah, what are you going to do?
Yeah, it's just how it is. That's just what it is.
What, do you mean open my mouth and get shot?
What's so crazy is that we just came off the hills of the Daybell case.
Yeah.
And where Detective Hermosillo was the clear hero of that story. Detective Hermosillo, his life was in danger. He did the right things. He pursued, even when it seemed like craziness.
Yes.
He followed the evidence where it led, even when it didn't really make a whole lot of sense. He worked collaboratively with the FBI. It was such a beautiful investigation. And then you go to this trial where this Chupacabra is the villain of the story. He's the lead investigator, and he is absolutely the villain.
Well, I think also you'll find out that I don't know if he is truly the villain.
Or just a villain.
It is a cabal of
villains.
Yes. 100%.
These text messages are so horrible.
This is... Yeah.
That I have a hard time thinking...
I know.
That he's not a villain.
Yeah, I know, I agree. I just don't think he is the villain.
Labeled Proctor friend.
Now, over the course of your investigation, over the course of this case, are you aware that there were iCloud data that was obtained from your personal cell phone?
Yes.
And different text strings from
So
that.
he's like, okay, in the course of the investigation, they got his iCloud. Okay, so this puts into question every case he's ever worked on,
mm-hmm.
and then all the other good police officers that just use their personal accounts to blow off steam.
Yeah, exactly. And
are they at risk now?
Yeah, the thing about it, it's phrasing and wording in a court of law means a lot, because really what the way he's making it sound is that we requested it and we got it.
And that's not really the truth here.
Well, it could have been. It could have also been, too, that the information they received from the FBI was transcripts from another way of gathering information, and then they subpoenaed his iCloud records to get more, and were able to get it at that point based on what they found in that information.
Yeah.
But what that tells you is that there was a judge that issued a warrant. Either way, there was a federal judge or it was the state or local judge issued a warrant and awarded it so that they would get the information.
This should have police, law enforcement scared over something like this. Like seeing this, they should really be worried that their personal information could be subpoenaed.
They, from my understanding, they tell cops that.
Do they?
Yeah, that's the whole reason that I say, like, when I was first hearing it and I didn't understand how far this went, I was like, the chief, his boss should be furious or held accountable.
Yeah, but it's Boston.
No, I know that. I'm just talking about.
And they got their accents, and they got their things, and they
their
got their
accents doesn't mean they get away with everything. Okay.
They're Boston PD. They can do whatever they want. All right.
iCloud data from your personal cell phone, correct?
Correct.
And with respect to what has just been placed before you, is that
You see like beads of
an
sweat
excerpt
like
or
coming down.
from those particular messages?
It is.
And from
Look
the
at his
front
body.
page of that, can you tell the jury who are
The members on this text thread are close friends from junior high, first grade even.
you've known for years? Is that correct?
Correct.
And do each of them live, or do any of them live within the general area at this time?
Some of them do, yes.
And so when some of them do, some of them do not, is that correct?
Correct.
And the ones that do not, how far away do?
Okay, so do you remember The Departed, where there was like there was the group of friends, or they were relatives, and half of them were in the mafia, and then half of them were in police.
Yeah.
Like this group of friends reminds me of that movie, The Departed.
And I think that's where I get a lot of my. So it's between The Departed, where I get a lot of my misconceptions or preconceptions about people that live in Boston,
Right.
And then there's the other one, which is the
Isn't The Wire? Isn't it Boston based?
probably too.
Or
Who's the guy in Gone Girl?
Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck did a movie as well.
What's
Here it
that?
is. It's called The Town. That's the name of it.
Gone Baby Gone.
John Hamm's in it.
Oh really? I haven't
Oh.
seen that one.
Yeah, I thought you watched it with me, but it's okay.
Yeah, Gone Baby Gone is Boston, also with Casey Affleck, and that's where the police are super corrupt and they cover over the abduction of the baby.
So
So there's like tons of movies about how corrupt the Boston Police Department is.
The Town is filmed around Boston, Mass, including Charlestown, Harvard Square, Old Sully's Bar, Grindleston, Neptune Oyster. Yeah, so these are all locations, and this one was also about the people of Boston and cops and how they all interacted with each other, and it's
It's like this.
I'm
It's
not gonna say that it's like a direct correlation, but man, the stereotypes are just kind of really
weird.
there.
It's weird to see it on trial. These stereotypes that we all have.
Yeah.
Do they live?
As far away as Tennessee.
That he's friends with all
Now-
these people. That
With reference
John Hamm plays an
to this,
FBI
there's an indication
agent.
as far as the first message sent or last message
And Jeremy
sent,
Renner's in it.
from this particular text chain, correct?
Hey, who is he messaging on this chain?
Sorry, may I
this
approach?
is
Yes.
his friends that he's had since first grade.
That's right. They're not cops. Some of them might
He
be.
said some of them are, and the one from Tennessee is definitely a cop that he's like one of his close friends.
See what I was talking about now?
I do, sir.
And from that area labeled conversation details, there's a first message.
Okay, so we're gonna start getting into these like horrific text messages. Another question I had is, why would the Commonwealth immediately do that? Why would they bring out these text messages?
Well, they knew they're going to come out. So the idea, it's all about narrative, right? So you get ahead of it. You don't get behind your message. You get ahead of the message. So
But they could have done it in a much better way, because if they could have gone, they could have said, "Okay, Chupacabra, we're gonna go through text messages," and he could have said it that, and they said, "What would we find?" And he could have said some very unprofessional behavior. I said some inappropriate things. I was blowing off steam.
But that's not how you can ask questions on the stand. So
maybe that's why.
That's letting him just dictate a narrative. It would have been overruled immediately and sustained. So
because if he would have done that, because
objected, not overruled, objected with a sustain.
Your mind goes to like the worst place. So so the jury would have been like, "Oh wow, what did he say? It must have been something really, really bad." And then when the defense comes in and like questions it, and in the minds of the jury, it's like, "Oh, it's not as bad as I originally thought."
Right. But you can't do that. His chance would have been during opening statements. That's when you know the evidence that's going to come out. And he knew it, and he never mentioned this, and he should have said it.
Those opening statements by the Commonwealth were terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible.
But his opening statement should have been, yes, you're going to hear some horrible statements made by some of the police officers.
By Chupacabra?
Anybody, any of them. You don't specifically say, you just say, because when you start saying too many names too, it gets overwashed. But what they should have done is said, you're going to hear a lot of things, but the evidence is going to speak for itself. So you might not think highly of these police officers. These police officers are just blowing off steam, and they're just saying shit that they normally wouldn't say. But they didn't choose to do that. So now that he's questioning him, you can't start doing a narrative of the evidence you're going to go over, because this is all evidence. All you can do is ask questions, and he can only answer it based on the questions. But when he starts going, I was having it's just they should object to it immediately, because you can't just, give your theory on the stand.
I feel like they handled this really poorly.
Oh, they did. Of course they did.
Sent date and time, and a last message sent date and time, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What is the first message sent date and time?
It's 10/18 of 2021 at 8:48 a.m. The last message sent is 8/31/2022 at 11:19 p.m.
And is there also within that conversation?
There is.
And what does it list for number of messages?
It's 38,707.
And fair to say the packet that you have before you does not contain all
38,000
38,707 messages, correct?
That's correct.
The first message that you had, I believe, alluded to in reference to the first one listed within this communication, what date and time is that?
That was January 29th, 2022 at 10:36 p.m.
And who is that message from?
My friend who lives in Tennessee.
And what, if anything, did he send to the group?
I need to brandish a gun more often.
And if you know, what is that in reference to?
He just recently moved to Tennessee, and he was kind of, I think, making a joke as
in his country.
kind of the lifestyle down there where guns are more prominent or more common to be carried around there. So I interpreted that as a joke in that nature.
Yeah. It's not a bad joke.
And the next message, sir, from that same page, 2527?
The next one is it's bold.
Jokes are appropriate or not, okay, Nicole?
And is there a name associated with that number that's in these?
No,
Do you know who that person is?
I don't.
And the next message, sir?
Wait a minute.
From,
Pause it for a
10:52
second.
PM.
So this is a group of people that he's known most of his life, and he doesn't recognize who the person is. So it's just some random person shows up in your SMS group, and you're talking about court cases with them.
And you don't know who it is.
And you don't even know who it is.
Chip, name of that BPD cop.
And Chip, who is that referring to, sir?
That is one of my nicknames I've had since maybe high school.
Chip.
But a guy knows him, and his
that would
nickname
be
since high
familiar
school.
amongst these group of friends in particular?
Yes.
And this time period when these text messages begin, sometime after 10:30 or 10:50 p.m. on January 29th, Where are you and what are you doing in reference around that time period?
At this point in time, on the 29th, I'm home.
And that last text message, do you respond to that at approximately 10:53 p.m.?
Yes.
And what was your response?
That's the next day,
John
right?
O'Keefe.
And the next message down from
2
there,
days
also
later, I
at
think.
10:53 p.m.
Yes. He took custody of his sister's kids.
That's your response. There's another response above that, is that correct?
Yes.
And what does that say?
How old?
And you respond as far as he took custody of his sister's kids, correct?
Correct.
Skipping down a couple, do you see an entry at 10:53:49 p.m.?
Yes.
And that's from a 617 number, is that correct?
Correct.
And what is the response there?
Oh man, that's rough.
And following that, do you respond to the earlier query as far as age?
I do.
And what did you say?
Mid-40s.
Now, the next message below that, as far as indication of mid-40s, what is that?
His age.
No, I understand that. I'm sorry. The next message underneath that, sir.
I'm sorry. It's a Facebook link.
And do you recall what that Facebook link is to?
It's to John O'Keefe.
And is that something you sent or one of your friends sent?
One of my friends sent.
So this is a discussion about John O'Keefe.
And the next message below, turning to now page 2529 at the top there, what is the next message that's sent?
What's that? Don't have the book anymore.
And as far as the book, what did you understand that to mean?
Make me approach.
Sure.
To 6 p.m., is that correct?
Yes.
And who's that from?
A friend who lives in Tennessee.
And what does he say in that text?
I'm sure the owner of the house will receive some shit.
And
Is
you
it still
respond
on
at
her?
10:56 as well as 10:57, is that correct?
That's the thing. I don't know who's controlling the camera, whether it's the Commonwealth or the media. Sometimes it's like gets all over the place. For the testimony from the technical woman that was doing the tab thing, it was like right on her face, like right there. The camera was. You're like, who's controlling this?
That's hilarious.
Correct.
And what is it did you respond?
My first response was nope. Homeowner is a Boston cop too.
Okay. You hear that?
Yeah.
So the friend texted him and said, "Oh, I bet the homeowner's is responsible." And
Or he's gonna get some shit, which
Yeah.
means
yeah, if there was a dead body in my front
yeah.
yard, and I'm the homeowner,
Yeah, you're gonna
It's
get
gonna-
looked at. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
But you should.
But his response immediately was, "No,
Nope.
he's a Boston Police Department." So nothing,
Yep.
nothing.
And then he lies on the stand because you know it's obvious that that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But now he's about to lie and say, "Well, that's not what I meant.
Well,
It's just coincidence."
And what, if anything, were you saying, or what was the purpose of that text in regard to the homeowner?
I was just letting him know that essentially Mr. O'Keefe is a Boston cop and the homeowner was a Boston cop as well.
Now, if I could turn your attention to 2533.
and they just kind of gloss over it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just said, no, he's not going to get in any trouble because he's a Boston cop.
Yep.
And top of the page, sir, if you could read through that page as far as who's texting and what are they saying?
Can you imagine being a decent human
No.
as a...
Oh.
right.
Sorry. Oh, I thought that was the question. I apologize. Continue.
Can you imagine being a good at your job? No. Okay. How to
You need to
rephrase the question?
Yeah, see,
Rephrase.
this is how it is being a lawyer. You have to rephrase.
Rephrase. Someone who is not you.
Imagine
someone,
this in your head.
Imagine another human, not you, who is good at their jobs
Yes. Okay.
and they are a police officer in Boston. How
Okay.
would you survive?
I can't imagine that either, to be honest with you.
There's got to be one or
There's
two
got to be.
good,
There absolutely
good
has to be.
Boston police officers.
Well, so later on, they do have the one of the forensic guys on the Boston Police Department that is looking. He's the one that's talking about taking the chips off of the boards and pulling in information. he seemed decent.
Huh.
Again, seemed, like how hard did he try to get the information off of the phone and stuff like that? But this was regarding pulling information off of Karen Reed's phone. So I think he put in all the effort possible into, try to get that information.
It must be really hard if you are one of the good ones surrounded by this level of corruption. It must be really hard.
Yeah. And I think that's also what that movie we watched was about, because there was supposed to be like an honest cop, and then he turned out not to be at the end or something like that. I don't know.
That's The Departed.
I don't know. Yeah.
Again, for my friend from Tennessee and myself, I hope not, but I can't see it. I responded with, she waffled him. I looked at his body at the hospital.
So she didn't waffle him. That's the thing. He immediately tells the guy that Karen, his friend in Tennessee, details about the murder and that she waffled him, but she didn't.
Right.
I imagine waffling is when someone is hit by a car and they're smashed in. That's not what happened.
Yeah.
So,
and it's also, there's a lot of terms too that people use that is not exactly accurate. And I think what he was trying to imply was, he smacked him, hit him with the car.
He was banged up.
But he shouldn't have been saying that stuff.
no.
Now, as far as the next text from a 781 number, what does that say?
Did he get beat up?
And you responded to that, is that correct?
I did.
Did he get beat up? He said, no, she waffled
Any
him.
response did you provide to that?
Nope.
Objection.
Nope.
The objection was to the former question and the answer. Incomplete.
I'll strike it.
Thank you.
Now,
But
turn
beat
your
up means
attention to
different things.
2534. And from this page, sir, if you could, again, just read through as far as indicating to the jury who's speaking and what is being said.
From the start of the first text, so the owner of the house?
Yes.
Cat's
So
about
the
to
owner of
jump
the
down.
house was a woman cop that beat him?
Is he?
That's what I initially thought after talking to Can paramedic. Then I saw the guy.
Yeah. So that part's important
those
too. So what we realize is that the first responders on the scene put in their reports that it looked like he was in a physical altercation because he had like injuries to the top of his hands, around his face,
eyes, yeah.
and like around the neck area.
Which makes that's the most logical thing based on this whole series of events. I'm looking at the cat.
He's good. And
Cat's going to jump down and ruin all of our stuff.
yeah. And so what he said was, that was my theory until I saw him, and then went, nope, she ran over him. That was it.
That doesn't make sense.
Last two are your responses, is that correct?
Yes.
Now,
And it's not his
the following
job.
text messages are from your friends, is that correct?
Yes.
What do they say?
Bear, let's focus. What does she waffle to mean? What's the story? I responded, she hit him with her car.
And the she that you're referring to there, who is that?
Miss Reed.
Now, turning your attention to the next page, 2535. Again, if you could start at the top of the page and read through that page and just indicate to the jury who is talking and what is being said.
Okay. My friend in Tennessee states, okay, that's fucked up. I respond, intentional or not. Then another response, gotcha. He was frozen in the driveway and she didn't see him, question mark. That's another animal we won't be able to prove. And then I respond, they arrived at the house together, gone to an argument.
I don't want to speak out loud or out of turn.
The objection's overruled.
Your Honor,
But
if I could say this, there needs to be an identifier of who's
I
speaking.
understand what you think the mix-up is. So, Mr. Lally, go back.
Thank you.
Sir, if you could please, again, start at the top of the page and just indicate.
No,
as you go
just after the, gotcha, he was frozen in the driveway, correct, Mr. Jackson?
That's correct, Your Honor, thank you.
I respond, that's another animal we won't be able to prove. I follow that up. They arrived at the house together, got into an argument. She was driving and left. 781 number responds with, what's the name of the Canton cop living in Canton, the other one involved.
And how do you respond to that, sir?
There's several other messages before I issue a response.
Objection again. Bottom of the page.
So it's not an objection, but Mr. Lally, why don't you point him?
He laughed about what she
So,
said.
sir, at the bottom of page 2535,
Because he's
you have a
skipping-
response, is that correct?
Yeah.
Key parts. He's not actually testifying correctly.
Yep.
Correct.
And what is that response?
They arrived at the house together, got into an argument. She was driving and left.
So it's going to be a matter you can address on cross. So I understand. So, Mr. Lally, why don't you go point for your witness?
Another thing I don't understand is this woman, the woman in the blue,
The court reporter, yes.
is she speaking
Yes.
into a?
Yep.
It feels like a Dune thing.
It
Like,
is a
remember-
Dune thing. It absolutely is. Yeah. So basically, she's like she can't breathe the oxygen, the air in that room, being so close to him. So she has to protect herself.
I've never seen. I've
Yeah.
never seen anything like this before. Is she just repeating what they're saying?
She is, but she's also putting in notes as well. So I don't know how it goes with the audio. I do know that they do this, and most of the time they're just rereading. So one is what he's saying is being recorded.
Mm-hmm.
So two is she's making notes and talking about who's saying what at the same time, and she'll go back later and type what he's saying and what's going around using the notes that she records as well as that. The way that you're used to is the thing, and
Yep.
and what that is they have their own shorthand, so they're not typing words, they're typing like characters
Mm-hmm.
and stuff, and those mean words. So they have a whole nother language that they speak.
Yeah.
So this is just a different way of doing it.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
First time I saw it, I was like, well, what? It's like science fiction we're watching. It's so strange.
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
And if you notice too, so she has the things in the ear as well.
Because she's listening to the recording.
She's listening to everybody's microphone, I bet. And she keeps pulling it out to hear certain things. What a job, eh? Like,
I know. Wonder how much they get paid.
Okay. It's a HTML link, whiteout / Proctor iCloud / group chat Feb 2022. So you point out.
I wonder if you could go to that. It's an iCloud account.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Your Honor.
The judge is getting involved.
Mr. Lally, it's on there. Why don't you go
57,000
show
a
your
year.
witness?
Okay.
Court reporter.
Why don't you just read it, Mr. Lally, and tell us who you attribute it to?
Sure. So, sir, what I'm asking you about is the bottom of page 2535, 2535. You indicated biffed him, correct?
Correct.
And what did you mean by that?
That Miss Rita struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle.
That you told your friend in Tennessee.
Now, sir, if I could direct your attention to page 2537.
Do police officers do that? Do they? I just feel like this is so strange. We're getting a peek under the covers, right?
Yeah.
Do they share that kind of information with their friends
Yes.
normally?
100%.
Okay.
So I used to do work for a lot of different police officers, computer work
Uh-huh.
for a lot of police officers, and they would tell me shit that I shouldn't have heard.
Yeah. Okay.
So
it's just a way of blowing off steam and connecting with people. And
it is. But I will say that every time, and here's the difference, is that every time that a police officer would talk to me, it was venting about something, but he wouldn't name names and wouldn't disparage anybody. I've never had a police officer talk about specifics. They have talked about specifics, but not disparaging, like the person as much as he's going to do. So typically it'd be like, yeah, I pulled over this woman for a DUI, and man, she blew 3 times over, and she's lucky she didn't hit anybody, blah blah blah. That so you're talking about a case, you're talking about something that's going on, but you're not sitting there saying, yeah, Jane Reed, she I pulled her over, hey, that place, they didn't do that, but they would always talk about court cases and stuff like that, because they just don't have that ability to talk to people. But what he did was above and beyond what I would consider to be normal conversation. Like, I could imagine that he would say to people, yeah, I'm working this case, a police officer got killed. We are right now suspecting the girlfriend, it looks like she's guilty.
Yeah. And the fact that he's leaving 2 orphans.
Yeah.
And, that kind of stuff, I could see that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, and also, if you are talking about the brotherhood of, the police brotherhood, this is a big deal. And you feel sorry and you want to discuss that kind of stuff. Cool. But, just the immediacy of how he latches on to her as a suspect.
Yeah.
Now, do you see a response toward the bottom of the page from yourself, January 29th, 2022 at 11:04 p.m.?
Yes.
And can you read that response for the jury?
Yeah, but there'll be some serious charges brought on the girl.
And what did you mean by that, sir?
That throughout the course of the day, we had compelling evidence that Miss Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle.
And you have 2 responses from friends, the same friends, at the bottom of that page, 2537, is that correct?
That's correct.
And what are those responses?
Keep your voice up loud, please, Trooper Proctor. Jurors can't hear you.
Yes, Your Honor. Number ending in 5051, got to be, I can only imagine what internal affairs of the BPD are trying to get out there. And the second response, same number. She hot at least?
That's a tip. That's a guy thing.
At the top, if you could just read
I'm not saying it's appropriate, but that is a guy thing.
Yes, sir.
Read from those, sir.
Yep, so these came from me. From all accounts, he didn't do anything wrong. She's a whack job, CUNT.
Objection.
So this is his friend. He's saying that too. So after he said she waffled him in the car, and then he says she's a whack job, CUNT.
Yeah.
And had he even talked to her at this point? Had he where's talk this about
And again, doesn't matter at this point, because what matters at this point is that she's treated as either a suspect, like the evidence needs to be looked at, not what your personal opinion. And as soon as you start going down that route, in my opinion, you're done.
He's sullied everything.
How can you be fair and impartial when you're saying this stuff about a possible suspect?
Yeah.
So don't spell it. You have to. So these are your words, Trooper Proctor?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead and say them.
Yes, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though.
Okay. So
yeah, this is the one I wanted to hear about.
So he says with Fall River accent, though. And what's so funny to all of us, not
from Boston,
all of them sound exactly alike. So for him to go, yeah, she's a CUNT whack job from Fall River.
Yeah.
It's what does that even, basically what he called her, Fall River, she's white trash.
Wow.
So he said, she's a whack job, she's a CUNT, and she's white trash, which she she was, I haven't heard her speak, so maybe her accent, but all of them sound like
White trash.
I know. It's like, why would you say that?
Oh, do you know who's from Fall River?
Who's from Fall River?
Lizzie Borden.
Is that where the Lizzie Borden house is?
It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's in Fall River. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter. It's like Fall River equals, like he's saying she's trash.
The Portuguese are from there too.
I wonder how thick their accent is compared to this dude's.
Place looks nice from pictures, but
Though, no ass.
No ass.
And sir, what is it that you were referring to there, or why would you text that?
These were, from all accounts, he didn't do anything wrong. Is talking about the homeowner, Mr. Albert. I had mentioned the compelling evidence against Ms. Reed at this point indicated that Mr. Albert had nothing to do with Mr. O'Keefe's death. The rest of the unprofessional and regrettable comments are something I'm not proud of, and I shouldn't have wrote in a private or any type of setting.
You know he does it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell.
Yep.
He's not sorry. He doesn't feel it's inappropriate.
He feels, what he feels is inappropriate, I bet.
That the FBI was looking at
Yep.
him. Because he's a Boston PD and they can do whatever they want to.
You do get that error.
Yeah. He really does. He's like above the law.
I am the law.
Yeah. He's just like, I can't believe I have to do this. This is so beneath me.
Yep.
Is the look on his face.
Sir, at some point, if I could turn your attention to page 2540.
Like I said, I understand why defense or prosecution is having him read this, but man, they're not getting in front of it.
Photograph
No,
that's
they're
shared
not.
within, and who is depicted in that photograph that was shared within the group text?
It's Miss Reed being escorted out of the State Police Milton Barracks.
So he took a picture of her
And sent to his friend.
and sent it to his friends.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
My God.
And these are all from February 1st of 2022, around that time frame, is that correct?
Yes.
Can you imagine if that happened to one of us?
Now,
Like
sir, if I
how-
could direct you
Can.
to page 2543.
I can definitely.
To serve and protect my house. He definitely is a villain.
And sir, if I could direct you to the top of the page and ask you to
One
read
of
through
many.
that page, indicating who's speaking and what the content of those communications are.
Okay. Number ending in 4146. Question is that chick a smoke? Again, 4146 question mark. I respond EH. I respond again, not bag, as Chief would say.
Not bad. As Chief
As
would say.
Chief would say.
I also respond with she's got a leaky balloon knot, leaks poo.
She has a leaky poo knot. She leaks poo to his friend in Tennessee.
So,
Like what?
and that's the one where I'm.
Why?
Well, what comes out is that she has gastrointestinal issues, and that she's gone to have corrective surgery for like a lot of surgery to have it fixed, and it's like a big medical issue. So he shouldn't know about those
No.
things. And one, okay, so let's say leaking poo is not a common phrase that you would use if you're
No.
disparaging someone.
No.
So I think he said that specifically,
He was revealing her medical information,
which is a HIPAA violation.
yeah. So if she is acquitted from this, she needs to turn around and sue this police department for a HIPAA violation like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable.
Because if you are finding this stuff out, getting medical records, I mean, I don't understand why you would need medical records on her.
And why you would reveal that to a friend.
Yeah, I guess if you were looking for anything psychological that came up, like if if she went to a psychiatrist and the psychiatrist said, you have this mental condition where you can snap at an instant and kill someone, I guess that would be a reason to look up medical records. But none of that pertains. So, like, to say that, it's disgusting. I mean,
And what, if anything, is that in reference to, sir?
Again,
Yes, he pays the bill for this.
to Ms. Reed's
Taxpayers.
some medical conditions there. Again, unprofessional comments I should not have made, and that I'm not proud of.
He doesn't. He's just saying that. He doesn't look that way.
As far as attitudes expressed within these text messages and other text messages, what, if any, impact did that have as far as your investigation was concerned regarding this?
These juvenile, unprofessional comments have zero impact on the facts and the evidence and the integrity of this investigation.
sorry, just something in my throat.
How can you say that about a person
Oh my God.
and have it not? Immediately, he's revealing her medical information. He's calling her names. He's dehumanizing her.
Yep.
And that has no impact on the,
Yep.
like, that's just, you are the lead investigator. You set the tone for everyone else.
Yep. And there was no reason for him to be lead either. That's what El Jefe was saying.
Really?
Yeah. So he was on call. And he said, the one thing he said, which I thought was interesting, was, out of anything, cops are lazy. And, I can get that too. Like,
Yeah.
Especially in a case like this. There's
We're
a lot of-
humans.
yeah.
Humans are lazy.
He goes, typically what happens is that when your shift ends, it's like, next investigator, let him
Yeah.
take it.
Exactly.
Wash my hands and I'm going to go home. I'm going to rest. But he made sure he took this case. Now, they were saying that the guy that would have taken over, they were making sure that everything was wrapped up before 7, before shift change.
Wow.
So everything did. Everything occurred. Everything occurred
Before shift change.
before shift change, because as soon as he would have taken over, it would have been a different matter.
They said these are unprofessional comments, but they absolutely do not detract from the integrity of the investigation or the facts and evidence of it.
Your Honor, may I approach this to retrieve?
He looks over. Are they buying it? Are they buying it? Did they buy it?
Did I say it right?
Wrong accent.
Now, Trooper Proctor,
Not in my
staying
mind.
within, we've seen text messages amongst yourself and a variety of different people from that same sort of iCloud area of your personal phone, correct?
Correct.
And among those, are there communications that you had with members of the Canton Police Department?
Yes.
And how would you characterize, or what was the general content of communications that you had with members of the Canton Police Department?
One communication was to coordinate interview times for firefighters and police officers and to set up a conference room where those interviews could be conducted. Obviously, the presence of Canton detectives or any police officers were not going to be sitting in on these interviews. Another communication was to inquire of relevant security videos that are in the area. Their local department, they know the area very well, so I reached out and asked if there's some good cameras in the area that I had of kind of interest in.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Yes. She's so angry.
I'm showing you another document, just ask if you recognize that.
Yes, I do.
What do you recognize that to be, sir?
Text communications between my sister and I.
That's your sister Courtney, is that correct?
That's correct.
And similar to what I'd asked you about the prior packet, as far as a first message sent, date and time, last message sent, date and time, what is indicated on this first page?
First message sent date time, December 10th, 2021 at 9:33 p.m. Last message sent 8:30, 2022 at 8:48 p.m.
And 8:30, that's August 30th, is that correct?
I'm sorry, yes, August 30th, 2022.
And similarly to the other messages, is there an indication as far as how many number of messages were sent between yourself and your sister over that time period?
2,865.
And fair to say that the documents in front of you do not contain 2,865 messages?
Correct.
Now, just in reference to the first message on page 2662, the first page in this packet, do you see that from December 10th of 2021 at approximately 9:33 p.m.?
Yes.
And what does that indicate?
A text message from my sister.
And what does it say?
I called earlier, Dolph earlier, and Mom was puking in the background.
And do you recall what that was in regard to?
From the sounds of it, my mother had the stomach bug.
I don't know what that has to do with anything.
No, it was such a weird point that they brought that up.
Like, why did they start there? Maybe there's something we're missing. But this prosecution, Commonwealth, is
Sir,
so
if I could
terrible.
direct your attention to page 2667.
Like, they just were kind of all over the...
And these are text messages from January 29th, 2022, between yourself and your sister Courtney, correct?
Correct.
And if you could read from the top of the page through the end, and please indicate to the jury as far as who's talking and who's saying what.
So I texted my sister at work, "What's up?" She responds, "What? Why?" I respond, "I just found it frozen to death on a front lawn in Canton this morning.
So it was the 29th.
Actually just interviewed Jen McCabe. Said she knows you."
And the knows you, who are you referring to?
My sister.
And how did your sister respond to that?
"Cut the shit." I responded, "You." It was a typo correction with my response to you. She responded, "Yeah, she knows Jack very well. She's really good friends with Julie." My sister continues on. Her sister is married to Brian Albert. My sister asks, "You still working?" ?
This is like the whole Boston. Say hi to your mom. She's
Yeah.
married to this and that.
Yeah.
They're all
Well,
related. They're all...
Yeah. Well, and it's also, too, remember, he says, I didn't know any of these people. In the grand jury, he
Yeah.
said, I don't know any of these people.
Yeah, it's very clear. They all knew it. They're all entwined,
Mm-hmm.
as the sister states.
Mm-hmm.
I says, yeah, gonna be out for a while. Homicide.
And as far as your answers to those questions, or as far as your communications that you had with your sister at this time, on the afternoon of January 29th, what were those in regard to, or why were you communicating that to your sister?
At that time, it was just kind of in the news. I was just kind of letting her know I was out working. She didn't share anything specific. I wouldn't share anything specific on cases with my family or anyone. It was just kind of an overall
That is not your
innocent
MO,
conversation.
Chupacabra.
Now, turning your attention to the next page, 2669. Again, if you could read from that page as far as...
I think we should call him Mr. Fall River. Yo, Mr. Fall River.
My sister starts off, "The Canton thing is a homicide." I respond, "This is at 3 in the afternoon on the 20th.
This is right after he said, I don't talk about cases with my family. Right?
And
he just said that.
Yeah, and he doesn't talk about it with, he said, don't talk about it with family or others, right? And he just gave intimate details to the other list, too.
Yeah.
Of,
And then he proceeds to talk. I don't talk about it. And then he proceeds to talk about it with his friend.
I don't talk about cases.
Don't say a word to
anyways, at
anyone."
exactly
She said,
4:52.
"Of course not." I respond, "In the very least, it's suspicious." She responds, "This is your livelihood." And then I would never miss with that. 3:07, I respond, Julie and Chris were at the bar with the victim and girlfriend. Got to interview them.
I'd like to direct your attention to page 2672. These are messages from February 1st, 2022, is that correct?
Correct.
And the
Do you
one
think
at the
he wears
top starts
glasses,
about
but chose not to
February
because
1st,
he doesn't like the way they
5:57
look?
p.m., is that correct?
Yes.
And
No.
again, if you could read through
Isn't
as
he
far
squinting
as
and
who's
he's
speaking and
like
what the
me,
content
like
of
a-
those messages are.
I texted my sister, "What's up?" She responded, "Nothing. I just saw Julie, and she said when this is all over, she wants to get you a thank you gift." And I respond, "Get Elizabeth one." Elizabeth's my wife.
Julie is
and
one
my
of
sister
people in the
responds,
house.
I think
because
so.
I guess her and Chris were friends with John, and she's so proud of you for leading this. And then she writes, "Elizabeth, question mark?"
Proud of you for leading this.
Yeah. Wow. That means it appears to mean they're all in collusion.
Yeah. Thank you for leading this cover up.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you for it.
I respond with, "She's been stuck with
Let
the
me get
kids for
you
the
a
last 10
present."
nights. My sister responded, with,
present?
"Yeah,
Or a
but she knew what life
bribe.
is like
No,
married to a
it's
cop."
not a bribe. He's already doing it. He can't be bribed. He can't be bought.
And sir, as far as
Do you feel
the,
me?
gift that's mentioned as far as
It's a
Julie
thank
Allen,
you
is that
gift
anything that you
For
have
covering it up. It's not a
received at
bribe.
any
That's
point in time?
beforehand.
I
Not a
never
bribe.
received a gift. I never asked for a gift. My wife never received a gift. She never asked for a gift.
Make sure you add that.
How
Make
would
sure
you
we add
describe
that.
this
There was
context
no
of this
gift.
conversation
Doesn't
or
matter.
why that's being discussed
You said it.
at this time?
Get my wife a gift.
Again, I don't know the thought process of my sister and Julie as far as bringing that idea of a gift into play. Like I said,
Just as a side note, I always think it's funny these people have that accent. They always say idea. Idea. I
I
can't
don't know
even
what idea you had.
idea. It's such a weird ending an end at the end of idea.
Yeah, well, I told you about my thoughts on the Boston accent.
I don't hate it like you do.
Well, no, it's not that I hate it. It just causes me physical pain to hear it. It's not that I hate it. Like if I hear someone speaking with a Boston accent, I tune them out, but it really does. It's grating. It just grates on me.
That is too funny because
And it's nothing personal against people from Boston. Like I've met people from Boston that are extremely nice and pleasant, but just the accent. And I have a lot of accents that do that. It's not
just Boston.
I'm not picking on Boston here. I'm not. I just
You really hate that Liverpool accent too.
yes. I do.
Does the Liverpool accent cause you physical harm?
A bit,
Physical
but
harm?
it's not. And it isn't like how they talk. It's just there's tones that they hit that when it hits, it registers, and it's like it's like chalkboard, nails on chalkboard. It's like something you can't control. But there's a lot of British accents that are that way too. Like certain Cockney words hit me, and just like it goes right up my back. But I also have so. Full disclosure, I have texture issues with like popsicles. And if I see someone licking a popsicle stick, it causes me physical discomfort. So this isn't like there's something wrong with people from Boston, but there's just this, it's my thing. It is like,
How about like the New York Long Island accent?
you'd have to show it to me. Like,
Okay.
I don't know, but there are certain accents, and there's certain words that I say that I just kind of like, I go, like kind of freaks me out a little bit.
Idea.
Stop it.
I didn't ask for one. I never received one. The same with my wife.
Sir, if I could direct your attention to page 2676.
2,676 pages.
And again, if
I
I
keep
could
looking
ask
down
you
over
to
here, but I
start at
probably
the
should look
top of
over
the
there.
page and,
Yeah.
read through and just indicate as far as who is saying, who is speaking and what they're talking.
I start out, we write like 8 to 12 warrants on each case. My sister responded, "No, I have no idea what the hell you do or how it works." I responded on the 10th at 7:36 p.m. I'm starving, but I also just want to go home. Thanks, though. My sister responds, yeah, but is dinner going to be waiting? She responded with, ha, ha, ha. And then I responded, yep. And then my sister responded with, okay, it's fine. Mom and I just don't want to go home.
I don't get
May I
that.
approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Personal family drama.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Water. Water?
Water.
Water.
So it feels like, this is the man who's losing control now. Like
Oh, yeah.
he's always in control, and now it's
Yeah, and,
he's losing control.
and that's kind of police mentality. I don't think that this is specific to him.
I think any police officer.
Yeah, because you have to be in control of a situation, and that's where a lot of the mistakes get made too. I'm in control even if you're wrong. It's like, nope, I'm right because I said I was right, so now I'm right forever. But I would imagine that it'd be very hard to be a police officer and not have that mentality.
Yeah.
So you can't be guessing yourself constantly.
He seems really uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah.
Another document, sir.
Doesn't
Do you
make
recognize
either.
that?
And angry.
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize that?
This is private messages between my wife and I.
Motherfucker.
Again, what is your wife's name?
Elizabeth.
And what, if anything, does that indicate as far as dates and times and number of messages involved?
Okay, so the first message sent 5/20/2022 at 6:19 p.m. The last message sent 8/31/2022 at 9:16 p.m.
I'm just going to cut out a lot.
And what, if any, indication does it give as far as number of messages within that text chain?
1,632.
And of those 1,162, there's one message that's listed on that, is that correct?
Correct.
And what,
So I normally love courtroom drama. Like I'll watch it all the time. But not this. This courtroom. Even though the defense is like some of the best defense I've ever seen, this defense is on the OJ level, and they are really good. But still, this is so boring. I think because the Commonwealth is so bad at their jobs that it's just so. And you even fell asleep. Like you were in front of the TV and you fell asleep.
Yeah. And I don't take naps. So
No,
this guy.
that's how boring this
This
is.
guy helped me take a nap yesterday, so I appreciate him.
is the date and time of that message, and what does it say, and who's speaking?
I also think
This
too,
is me speaking on June
within the
9th,
time frame,
2022 at
he sent his
4:56
sister 3
p.m.
times as many texts as he sent his wife.
I text my wife waiting to lock this whack job up.
There you go.
And what are you referring to in that text, sir?
I'm referring to the arrest after Ms. Reed was indicted by the grand jury.
And again, as far as the terminology that you use in that text message to your wife, why is that?
Again, unprofessional messages I should not have sent. I don't have an explanation other than they're regrettable and it's something I'm not proud of, the language I used.
May I approach to retrieve your?
Yes. So Trooper Proctor, the jurors can't hear you. So speak directly into your microphone the way I'm doing, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Dumbass. She's gonna walk over there and slap him.
God, she really doesn't like him.
Could you? Like, I can't imagine anyone in this
You
courtroom.
have to be though. See, that's the thing is, But I think the problem is that we saw so much of the Daybell case that we saw how even Pryor was professional and did their job to the best of their ability at all times.
Yeah.
Pryor just didn't have anything to work with, and so we come from this to this, and it's just like, yeah, the defense is good, but they're not professional all the time either. Like they get stopped many, many times during their cross. So, and they're good. Don't get me wrong.
They're very good.
All right. So now we're going to the cross.
Oh, here we go. What were you singing at this point? You're never gonna be president now. He's never gonna be the chief now.
Yeah.
You're never gonna be the chief now.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he's gonna get a promotion after this.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yep.
It's Boston again.
And then the zoom to her.
I don't know why they do that. It's so strange.
Now, Trooper Proctor, you're familiar with conversations that
Oh, yeah.
It was just a sidebar.
within the same text communications from your personal phone with colleagues of yours at the state police?
Yes.
Look at all that paperwork there. Look at that.
And Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
It's the whack job, what he said.
You notice he didn't even look at him? He just... So, a CUNT and a whack job so far.
There's a couple more that we've missed.
No, just so far. So far.
No, there's one more.
really?
Yeah. There was another one he called her. He called her a couple of other things.
There was one that he was saying to the group that was like,
Did he call her a rat brain?
what are you, a Scientologist?
It's like my new favorite, rat brain.
Hello, rat brain.
Like,
I think I delivered the line better.
yeah. It's like, when did Chupacabra become a Scientologist?
Okay.
Are they doing sidebar again?
Which way you want to go? You want to go this way? I'll go this way.
How expensive is the guy in the middle, his suit? That looks like a $5,000 suit,
Probably is.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
That is a
I mean, it's definitely
$5,000 suit.
custom. It fits him really well.
That is a nice suit.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Showing you another document, sir. Before I get into that, though, if I could turn your attention back to some of the comments on the language used in the January 29th and February 1st or 2nd text communications among your friend group. With reference to that particular time frame in the language that you used, what sort of information had you gathered to that point, and why would you say or use
You know, I
that
think it's also
particular
why it's
language
boring,
in your
is they don't have microphones on the prosecution and defense. So that was what was so great about the Daybell trial, was that there was a podium that they would each one go up to.
And you
And
could
speak.
see them. I think this is like, you only see certain people, whereas in other cases you could see everyone as
Right.
they were talking.
Right.
So maybe that's why.
I think it has I think it's a lot of different reasons, but I have a feeling that that's one of them. And so you're like I see myself straining to understand what he's saying right now. Like I have no idea. So just kind of I can't really hear you. I'm nodding off.
Mm-hmm.
And then he talks and you're just like, it's too much.
in your
language.
descriptions of the defendant.
So this is, 16, 18 hours later, and we conducted multiple interviews.
Speak up.
Conducted multiple interviews. We
Gonna
knew
walk
Mr.
over and just
O'Keefe never
slap him
went
on the head.
into Fairview Road. We knew there was one shoe at the scene, one shoe at the hospital. Based off Mr. O'Keefe's injuries, Miss Reed's statements when Sergeant Buchanan and I interviewed her, her broken taillight, the missing taillight, some taillight pieces found at the scene, the
But you haven't found
compelling
him yet.
evidence pointing directly
16
at
hours.
Miss Reed that she struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle led me to make those comments. Whether, like I said, they weren't professional comments, but based on the day's investigation,
Not
it was
even a day,
clear
16
that
hours.
Miss Reed had struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle.
So what if she is a whack job?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if she is
Yeah.
crazy. But still, that's his personal bias that's
Yeah.
coming in.
Yeah. Again, that's one of the things that, like, none of that should matter against the evidence. The
Right.
evidence always comes first.
Could you think of like real whack jobs?
Yeah.
The suitcase woman,
Yeah.
right? That's a real whack job.
Yeah. But, and she even videotaped it going on.
What's her name? Boone.
Yeah.
I think her name
Sarah
is
Boone or
Sarah,
something like that?
Sarah Boone, yeah, in Florida. When I say the suitcase lady, the one that is going to be tried for murder of her boyfriend.
But they're still going through the evidence correctly and making sure, like, yeah, she's off and she has her issues and she has her mental problems. That doesn't make her guilty. Videotaping the person,
murder does.
The murder, it kind of makes you guilty. But, and you look at
But you could.
her mental condition as a reason that we get to where she did it,
But you could see the police officers in that case, like texting their friends. Sarah Boone is a nutcase, a whack job.
Yeah.
But still, highly unprofessional.
Highly unprofessional. Yeah.
Sir, if I could turn your attention to the documents before you, do you recognize those?
I do.
And as far as the participants in that particular conversation, who are the participants listed there?
It's Trooper David DeChico and myself.
And Trooper DeChico and yourself both work within the same unit with the state police, is that correct?
That's correct.
That siren, by the way, is on their side, not ours.
And beyond the professional relationship you have with yourself, between yourself and Trooper DeChico.
Yeah, if there was a siren that we heard here, we would stop and go gawk because
there's
never ever sirens here.
No, I think we've heard one or two.
When our neighbor behind us, they had their fire alarm went off and the whole fire department came.
Was like surrounding the house. And
that was the most exciting thing that's ever happened
to us here.
How would you characterize your relationship, generally speaking?
We're buddies, we golf together, hang outside of work, our kids play together, so I'd say, we're friends.
Now, within the, again, as far as the first message sent, date and time, and last message sent, date and time within this conversation, if you could describe that for the jury.
First message sent, date and time, March 17th, 2022, 11:08 a.m. Last message sent, date and time, August 18th, 2022, 6:08 a.m.
And again, the number of messages listed within this text chain.
87.
And fair to say the documents before you do not contain 87 text messages, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Now, just in general terms, if you have an opportunity to just look at the first couple pages there, fair to say those are just sort of jokes that you have going back and forth between yourself and Trooper DeChico, is that fair to say?
Yes.
Now, if I could turn your attention specifically to page 2632. And these are text messages starting on April 28th, 2022 at 10:52 in the morning, is that correct?
I'm sorry, what was the time again, sir?
April 28th, 2022, 10:52 a.m.
Yes, correct.
April
And again,
20th?
sir, with reference to this page, if you could read the content to the jury and please indicate whom is speaking at each respective time.
So this is
Okay.
a couple months after.
I start out without a doubt. He's got diarrhea of the mouth too. Trooper DeChico, rookie move, not going into a meeting with the ME and getting that homicide determination. I respond.
Wait a minute,
Yuri
can
and
you
I
rewind
had
that?
two
Right there, I think, maybe. See.
And please indicate whom is speaking at each respective times.
Okay. I start out without a doubt. He's got diarrhea of the mouth too. Trooper DeChico, rookie move, not going into a meeting with the ME and getting that homicide determination.
There you go, right there. So that's basically saying he made the rookie move, not going in and pressuring the ME to list it as a homicide.
Yep.
Instead of following the facts, which would be whatever the ME concludes, you use that for your investigation. Okay.
I respond, Yuri and I had 2 conference calls with her, sent her numerous photos, etc. We laid out the entire case for her. Trooper Chico responds, not good enough, should have had me or Jeff do it. I respond, if you two did it, she would have made it accidental or natural causes.
And
That's actually a pretty funny joke, though. But when I was listening to it the first time, I was like, yeah, I actually laughed. It's a pretty funny joke because they're going back and forth, talking about the investigation, and they're like, well, you dumbass, if you would have done it, it would have been labeled natural causes,
Right.
And
Yeah, but
that's how it works. I mean, I personally don't see anything wrong with this text exchange.
well, I do a lot, because I mean, your medical examiner is supposed to be separate from the investigation.
No,
I
because
laid
the
out-
medical examiner needs all of the information to be able to make the right determination.
Mm-hmm.
But the medical examiner needs the freedom to be able to say, no, those were dog bites
Mm-hmm.
and not a car hitting him.
Well, that's what I mean, is that he didn't push our narrative to match homicide.
Yep.
Because at the time there wasn't anything. So then it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, if I would have done it, I could have pushed that narrative. Well, it's like, that's not following the evidence. That's you telling the ME what
to do.
to do. And so does that mean that you remove evidence that would make it look like,
It was homicide.
yeah, and if that joke, that's a bad joke, because
It's inappropriate. It's absolutely inappropriate. But it's that dark humor that police officers have. And it's just,
right. I hear you, but it's dark humor based on inappropriate actions to the medical examiner. Think about it. Every time I hear this stuff, I put myself in this situation. What if it was me on the other end, knowing I was innocent and hearing them talking about, well, you didn't push the narrative that this guy's guilty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even though the evidence is showing I'm not.
Yeah.
Well,
good thing you don't live in Boston.
Well, for other reasons,
I like Boston. It's cool.
but I have to hear them. And then I'd start talking like them. And
can you explain the context of those communications, or what exactly is it that you and...
You develop your Boston accent just to every time you talk, you're like, I did.
So you want to go to the car?
Go to the car, go to the park.
What's wrong? Nothing. I just can't stand my own accent.
That's so stupid. But like something we totally do. All right. Back to
I have
Chupacabra.
to switch accents so I can live with myself.
and Trooper Chico are talking about in that communication.
Okay, so the ME is the medical examiner. They conducted the autopsy of Mr. O'Keefe. Our office, it's kind of a little bit of a locker room.
Hold on, wait for the ambulance and then speak up. The jurors can't hear
Yeah,
you way back.
dumbass.
I think she just wants to slap him upside the head like a mom. Or grab his
So
ear.
like I said, the ME stands for medical examiner. They conducted the autopsy of Mr. O'Keefe. I guess I'll address the conference calls Sergeant Buchanan and I had with the medical examiner. The doctor had some questions as to the facts and evidence, kind of what had transpired, which is common. Even if it's a homicide, I've had many calls with the medical examiner's office, even if it's a suicide or overdose. Always with a homicide, the doctor wants to know what transpired. Trooper Chico and myself, we kind of like to bust each other's chops, go back and forth. So that's what he meant by saying, rookie move, not going into a meeting with the ME in getting that homicide determination. The original determination came back, what,
Sustained. Next question, Mr. Lally.
Now, as far as
I mean, like, you can't just
attending
start.
the autopsy, is that something that
espousing
typically
on the
someone within
stand.
your office would do, within your unit would do with regard to any sort of death investigation?
yes,
And do you know who attended the autopsy of Mr. O'Keefe in this specific case?
Trooper Connor Keefe.
And so as far as Trooper Chico's
Chupacabra.
reference to you not going in or Sergeant Mechanic not going in, is that what you believe Trooper Chico was referring to in that message?
Objection.
Sustained as to the form.
You indicated that you and Trooper Chico bust each other's chops. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And can you describe a little more, expound upon that as far as the nature of your relationship and sort of the text messages that you exchange in this and then other communications that you have?
Basically, just kind of needling each other, and him doing that is by saying, texting me, rookie move, not going into meeting with the medical examiner. So that's a perfect example of him kind of just needling me, which we do on a daily basis.
And as far as your interpretation of that, did you interpret that as a serious comment or something said in jest?
I interpreted that as a typical joke from Trooper Chico.
Now, may I approach to retrieve?
Yes.
Always jokes whenever I plant evidence wrong.
Asking, do you recognize that?
Yes.
Do you recognize that to be?
Text messages between myself and Trooper Chico.
And again, what is the first message sent, date and time, last message sent, date and time, and number of messages contained therein?
First message sent, date and time, April 28th, 2022 at 1:09 p.m. Last message sent, date and time, April 28th, 2022, 4:45 p.m.
And the number of messages, sir?
4.
And if you could read the contents of those messages contained therein. Please indicate who's speaking.
So I started out, of course, it's undetermined. She was a whack job.
Again, what does that have to do with anything?
So the ME came back as undetermined.
Right. Which means there's not enough evidence to conclusively say
It was a homicide.
one way or the other, whether it was a homicide, accidental, or
Yeah.
how the person died. Especially based on their
Trooper
evidence.
Chico responds, "Dear God, WTF, what the hell is inconclusive about the whole thing?"
Your investigation.
And as far as your indication
evidence
there,
is
as far as
supplied?
she was a whack job, who are you referring to there?
Miss Reed.
Now, as far as the undetermined or what you're talking about, what is sort of the content or the context of this conversation?
That would be the manner of death was determined to be undetermined by the medical examiner's office.
And so I ask you again, as far as your reference there in the bottom of the first page, as far as she was a whack job, whom do you believe you're referring to there?
Again,
Ms. Reed or the medical examiner?
Miss Reed.
Who's the whack job again?
Miss Reed.
Who's the whack job?
Miss Reed?
May I
Can you
approach
point to
your-
the whack job?
Reed? Oh. That's
I can't wait until, because we're right now when we're recording this, the court is on holiday for Juneteenth.
mhm.
So the Commonwealth is still going. They haven't completed. So when the defense starts, I'm really curious where
Yeah.
they go, how well they do, and if it's as boring or if it's way more entertaining. Because the cross has been way more entertaining.
Yeah. And the other thing that El Jefe said was, I can't remember his real name, so I'm just going to call him El Jefe. One of the things that he said was that typically in most of the trials that he's been in, you're really into the meat of the evidence. So you're really going over all the evidence, how you're building your case like very strongly right now. And he said, nobody's entered anything. There's been no evidence shown to the jury. And he's like, I don't know what's going to happen because he said it might be too late. Because you could come back and have like this golden piece of evidence, and the jury has seen all of this stuff that they've introduced. Not the defense, but the prosecution has introduced all of the conspiracy theory and how it could be true.
Yeah.
So he's like, I don't understand what they're doing because they've made up their mind already.
The jury has.
Yeah. I mean, because that's what a lot of people say is that most of the jury makes up their mind during opening statements.
Then opening statements, the Commonwealth did such a terrible
job. And then all you've talked about for the past, how many days? 20 days? Is the conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Nobody's talked about the evidence.
Here we go. There's another sidebar here.
Yeah.
I mean, they had him opening up evidence, but it was so boring.
Yeah. Yeah. But no evidence that's like going, there's the direct evidence. It's just this weird.
And even if it's all circumstantial, at least tying it all together with this is what's happened.
Maybe there's this closing bombshell
You those
thing.
look up when you're
It's
finished.
not going to help, but
Do you recognize those, sir?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize those to be?
Another text thread between myself, Trooper DeChico, and Trooper Kukowski.
And Trooper Kaskowski is another trooper within your unit in the state police, is that correct?
Yes.
And again, if you could read from the first message sent, date and time, and the last message sent, date and time.
First message sent, date and time, 5/24/2022, 9:21 p.m. Last message sent, date and time, 8/24/2022, 4:56 p.m.
And as far as the number of messages indicated within this text chain between yourself, Trooper Kukowski, and Trooper DeChico,
494.
fair to say the documents before you do not contain 494 text messages, correct?
Correct.
Just in reference to that first page 2635, first message sent, that's May 24th, 2022, around 9:21 p.m., is that correct?
Yes.
And that's a message sent from Trooper Kaskowski, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
What is
Right.
that?
Appears to be a picture of a toy Santa Claus.
Now, sir, if I could direct your attention to page 2644.
they started with the toy Santa Claus.
If I could direct you to the bottom of the page, sir, and see the text from yourself at June 9th, 2022 at 11:19 p.m.
Diary of the mouth. That's what the other one started with.
Yes.
Very bottom of the page. And Your Honor, may I approach just to point it out?
Yes.
Yeah, I see it, sir.
Yeah. But diarrhea of the mouth would indicate
Okay.
he said too
If
much.
you could read what you wrote on June 9th, 2022, around that time, sir.
Or
If you like women
Told
who
the whole
shit
truth.
themselves.
Did you hear that?
Again, sir,
didn't, sorry.
What is it?
If you like women who shit themselves.
And again, sir, what is it that you're referring to there?
Again, a regrettable comment I made about Miss Reed's medical condition.
they're talking about.
Now, if I could
Again.
direct you to the following page, 2645. And again, if you could read from that page as far as who is, and indicate to the jury who is speaking and what is being said on page 2645.
I'm speaking right now. The statement she made tonight at age 7 was mental. Thank Christ it was on BWC, which is body worn camera.
Did they submit that evidence?
I haven't seen it.
I'm curious.
Might get to it, but I mean, so
Body cam evidence should be in.
yeah. So, according to, I can't think of what
El
it's called.
Jefe?
No, not this time. This one I know. But they have to give the evidence to prosecution and defense. So if it's not coming up there's nothing there.
Hmm.
It's not anything that is giving, plus or minus for defense
Well,
and prosecution.
he's saying right here.
He's saying that she's crazy because of what's on there. But we're also not through yet. Like, we haven't gotten to the evidence yet, and whatever she said. And she might have been talking about how this is a conspiracy and you guys are framing me, and they're like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, well, yeah. I mean, the evidence shows that maybe you're right.
Trooper Kukowski responds, "That's her. Smoke." Trooper Kukowski again, "What'd she say?" I respond, "Said the Alberts beat the shit out of O'Keefe, left him for dead, and that's why her taillight was cracked. She's gross." Trooper DeChico, "Oh, f her, bitch."
Wow. It's shocking. Not shocking.
Thank you, sir. May I approach to retrieve your arm?
I think what's so shocking is that this happens.
Mm-hmm.
That's how police officers talk to each other.
Yep.
But it's just so shocking to see it out in the public like this.
Yep.
Sir, with reference to that last bit, as far as June 9th, 2022, what was going on that day in reference to this matter again?
Miss Reed was being processed at the Milton Barracks.
Thank you.
So they're upset that it was on body cam
I may
because
have
she was
just
a
a
whack
moment, Your Honor.
job.
Yes.
But now we're actually getting evidence that what she's saying is 100% true.
Yeah, he called her gross. And then she shits herself.
And maybe that Chupacabra doesn't know what's going on. That all he was told was to make sure she goes down.
May I approach?
Yes.
But it just shows you how bad of a cop he is. Either he's a
documents
bad
to
cop and
recognize
doesn't
those?
see the evidence in front of his eyes,
I do.
or he's a corrupt cop.
Another text thread with members from my office, troopers.
And who are the troopers that are listed within that?
Trooper Chris Moore, Trooper Jeff Kukowski, Lieutenant John Fanning, Trooper Dave DeChico, and Sergeant Yuri Buchanan.
And what is the first message sent, date and time?
That would be 5/26/2022 at 8:19 p.m. Last message sent, date and time, 8/26/2022, 5:36 p.m.
And what is listed as far as the number of messages within this chain?
651.
And fair to say the documents before you do not contain all 651 of those messages within this chain, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, sir, if I could direct your attention to page 2682. You see a message sent from Trooper DeChico on August 17th, 2022 at 9:42 p.m.
Yes.
And is that an image contained on the next page, which is 2683?
Yes, it is.
And what is the image of?
That is a picture of Mr. Yannetti. Appears to be from quite some time ago.
I want to know
I'm
what
turning
this.
your attention to,
I want to know what the picture is of him. Is Mr.
I do think it's just his picture, because I think when he pulls it up, you can see it's just like a,
just from his law firm page. I think. Yeah.
the next page, 2684.
So now they're disparaging
There you go. The lawyer.
the
There's a
lawyer
response
on
from
the
you, August 17th,
defense
2022 at 9:44 p.m., is that correct?
for doing his job.
Sorry, sir. Go with the date and time again, please.
Sure. Page 2684, 8/17/2022, 9:44 p.m.
Yes.
Look how shiny his head is.
He buffs it.
Yeah. His head's really shiny there. like, wow.
You see there's like sort of 3
Yeah.
responses from you.
I have you now.
If you could just read the 3 responses from yourself, sir.
Okay, so
CGI.
these came from me. Funny, I'm going through his client's phone. No nude so far. I hate that man. I truly hate him.
There we go.
So we have to bleep up that word, but he just used the hard R word in a really offensive way. Because we'll have to bleep that out because it's way too offensive.
Yeah. And then also says that I haven't found any nudes on her phone.
On the hard R's phone. Wow. But we've always known in Boston, one of their catchphrases used to be wicked R word. It's wicked R word.
Yeah. Yeah.
They say that all the time.
Yeah.
It's part of the vernacular, but still at this point it's
So
way
I guess
too
this
offensive.
UNT as well, and whack job and everything else. That, like, I mean, it's just, yeah. And it's like I said, when I was hearing these words, it kind of gave me this impression that like a group of them together, that is all they say is just, you know,
Yeah.
it's like the South Park when all the rich people come to buy like the land, and they're all like saying the same phrases over. Tesla.
Coronado.
Coronado.
Mm-hmm.
And they just
Now,
constantly stream it out
with
their mouth.
reference to the investigation at this point, when you're talking about his client's phone, who are you referring to?
Miss Reed.
And with regards to the phone at that point, can you describe for the jury sort of what's going on during this time period of August 17, 2022 in regard to Ms. Reed's phone?
So after obtaining a search warrant for Miss Reed's phone, we weren't able to extract any data from it until August of 2023. Troopers in my office knew I was going through the phone that evening. I was most interested in location data, text messages, Google searches. That was the update I gave the troopers in the office. It was a distasteful joke. I should have gave a proper update instead of that. I wasn't able to go through the phone as thoroughly as possible because I came across some a text between an attorney and Ms. Reed, so I had to stop going through her phone, and I made my supervisor aware of those communications.
You also made your supervisor
Now,
aware
just
that
in
you couldn't
reference to
find
what
nudes
you had
as
just
well.
said, this is in August of 2022, is that correct?
Correct.
So after a search warrant is obtained for the defendant's phone, where did it go? You indicated you gave it to Trooper Garino, and where did it go from there?
Trooper Garino essentially hooks it up to a device called Gray Key, where it tries every possible combination passcodes in order to access the data contained in the phone.
And at that time, when you retrieved it pursuant to the search warrant, you didn't have the passcode to the defendant's phone, is that correct?
Correct.
So that device is designed to sort of go through numbers and try to find a combination to get into the phone, correct?
Correct.
And so from the time that you had seized it in late January or on January 29th, 2022 until this date in August of 2022, had you been able to get into the phone or see anything in the phone in those intervening months or 7 months between January and August?
No.
And so then at this time that you're sending this text message in August of 2022, is that around the time that you were first able to access the phone?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Yes, that was the first time we were able to have access to the phone.
And with reference to your access to the phone, were you looking for nudes or anything like that in regard to the defendant?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No, like I stated, I was most interested in Ms. Reed's location data, text communications, Google searches, things of that nature.
You said you were
More
looking for
evidence
nudes.
contained within the phone.
Nudes.
And so, sir, you mentioned at some point you came across some information that caused you to sort of freeze your looking through the phone, is that correct?
Yes.
And so as far as that specific time period in August of 2022, when was the next time that you or any troopers from your office were able to actually look at any extraction of the defendant's phone?
So once I came across that text communication that took place on the 29th between Ms. Reed and an attorney, the phone had to be sent off to what they call a taint team to remove any attorney-client privilege information from the phone, and then it would be returned to us as well as defense received a copy of that as well. I'm not positive on the time it was quite a long turnaround for that process to be completed.
Sometime at least in the spring or summer of 2023, does that sound about right?
It sounds about right.
May I approach to retrieve, Your Honor?
Yes.
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, so I'm going to see you at sidebar so I don't interrupt your cross.
So what is it? Never gonna be sergeant now. You're never gonna be sergeant now. Those are just gallery folks. Pro Karen. I think that's his family O'Keefe.
That's his mom, I think. O'Keefe's mom.
Yeah. Okay, can you imagine how horrible it must be for her? Like, you want justice for your son, but to have the police bungle it so badly like this.
Yeah.
She's not going to get justice unless the FBI comes in and saves the day.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mr. Jackson, go right ahead.
Trooper Proctor, in the summer of 2022, August 17th specifically, you were sitting at your desk, presumably alone at your office, at about 10 p.m. at night, going through my client's personal cell phone.
I love the smile
Correct.
you have on your face.
Yes, sir.
It's such a great opening cross. I think it's one of the best opening crosses I think I've ever seen. I haven't seen a ton. I mean, I'm new at this, but the stuff that I've witnessed over the last few years, that because I always have court cases in the back, this is one of the best ones I've seen.
Because it's all about the story,
Mm-hmm.
right? So he's not asking him a question, and he's not making a statement that is outside of what the facts show.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying, let's set the scene of where you are.
Yeah, he's painted him out to be a complete pervert
Mm-hmm.
just from the gate.
You're by yourself, alone in a dark room,
Yeah,
looking for nudes. Yeah,
it's a really good.
but it's true, and
It's true, and this is why he gets paid. This is
Yeah.
why he's got the $5,000 suit on, because
Yeah, and
he is good.
and that's what's so rough about these text messages is that you know that people talk this way,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you get someone's phone, like, oh, am I gonna find nudes on it? You know, like it's just the first thing you do. But that's what I would say, laughing with a group of friends, not what I would say to a police officer, or as a police officer. I don't know. I just feel like I would take my job a lot more seriously.
You would
Which is-
hope so.
Well, that's the reason I'm not a police officer. Is I can't take anything
You can't take
seriously.
it
So
seriously.
I like
And you make inappropriate jokes all the time.
and I probably would say something in front of the family of like, oh, I'm sorry, your loved one passed away, and tell a joke.
Yeah.
I would. That's why I'm not one. I can't do it. It's like
This is why we make fun of people. It's
the main reason why.
because that's all we do.
It's the only way I can deal with my sad life.
We're always saying something inappropriate.
Always.
All right, so I'm gonna start over because his opening is so good.
At about 10 p.m. at night, going through my client's personal cell phone. Correct?
Yes, sir.
As a matter of fact, you were sitting there texting with your friends and colleagues at Massachusetts State Police about you going through her personal cell phone. Is that right?
Correct, sir.
And that included Trooper DeChico, is that right?
DeChico, yes, sir.
Trooper Fanning, Trooper Buchnick, Trooper Moore, and Trooper Kutzkowski.
Kakowski.
Tell me that again?
Kakowski.
Kukowski.
Yes, sir.
All right, all the consonants are silent. Fair enough. Trooper Fanning and Trooper Buchnick are your supervisors.
Yes.
And you were bragging to all 5 of them that you were going through Karen Reed's cell phone about 9:45 at night.
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Is that right?
No, I wasn't bragging, sir.
How did you refer to Ms. Reed in that text exchange where you informed them that you were going through her phone?
Just if you haven't heard this testimony before, we're going to have to bleep a lot of this out because he uses the hard R word constantly to prove the point of how disgusting Trooper Proctor was in his comments. And I think he really nailed it.
I use regrettable language. I said it going through his client's phone right now.
You were shown a photograph of my colleague, Mr. Unetti, correct?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Same document. Oh, Your Honor, I think the court has the copy that I was going to use.
I thought I gave him back to you.
Just because the prosecution brings it up doesn't mean that we're not going to lambast you
You'd
for it.
received a photograph.
But that was the best they could do.
Actually, Your Honor, if I could, I would ask that this document be marked as next in order. Assuming the witness verifies its authenticity.
So go ahead.
Do you recognize this document?
I do, sir.
Same document that you were shown, copy of the same document that you were shown by Mr. Unetti, correct?
Mr. Lally.
I've done that twice. Mr. Lally.
Correct.
All right. Is that a true and accurate reflection of the text messages that you were exchanging with Chris Moore, Jeff Kakowski, John Fanning, Vito DeChico, and Yuri Buchanan?
Those names. They're all tongue twisters, aren't they?
Yes.
I've asked that this be marked.
Okay, any objection?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, I'll see you outside on there. Have that, please.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm also wondering too, like they keep muting it. So I think this is coming from a news agency. And so they're, but I don't understand the muting when they go to sidebar.
I
Yeah, it's weird.
don't know.
Because that's like a key press that you would press if it's going to an outside phone line.
Give it back to the witness, please.
May I inquire, Your Honor?
Yes.
Trooper Proctor, Trooper DeChico had sent you a photograph of my colleague, Mr. Unetti, correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, because of the technical issue, I'm not going to display on the television. May I display this hard copy briefly?
Sure.
Thank you. You see that, gentleman?
I do, sir.
Is that the photograph that you received?
Yes.
Is that what you referred to
So that's
on
the
direct examination?
picture that
Mr.
they sent.
Lally, about receiving.
Looks like it has words written underneath his picture, like it was a meme of some kind.
Could be that, or could also been too, like it was from his website with like a description of who he was or whatever, or it's their evidentiary description at the bottom too. Knowing them, it's a meme, like that they one of their
Photograph from Mr.
Yeah.
Guys
of
do
Mr.
together.
Unetti.
Correct.
And then your response was what?
I hate that man. I truly hate that man.
Which is a valid response. I mean, you see him as opposition, right?
Right.
So
I know.
it's not. I don't know. That seems like a normal human response.
To me, it's just another example of how this guy's like, everybody that is, these are all parts of protection of law, right? And if you are on any part of the law that goes against my word, you get treated like crap and made fun of and berated and everything else. That's okay if you're like a beat cop, but that's, just snagging suspects. I don't think it is either, but they're not the ones putting people in jail due to testimony and evidence.
Yeah.
So that's the issue that I have with all of that.
Actually, your response was, I'm going through his retarded client's phone right now, correct?
Yes, after the picture, sir, yes.
Who's the retarded client?
I was referring to Miss Reed, again, unprofessional language.
I'm asking who you were referring to.
Miss
I know
Reed.
you got an explanation. Who was it you were referring to as retarded?
Miss Reed.
Karen Reed, the woman sitting to my left.
Yes, sir.
The subject of your investigation as a professional, correct?
Yes, sir.
As an unbiased, objective investigator, the person that you were investigating, you referred to your bosses as retarded, correct?
Again, poor language on my part.
Poor language is one way to put it. Completely offensive is another way to put it, right?
Objection.
I've got to sustain that, Mr. Jackson.
But not strike it.
After you referred to my client as retarded, then you decided to make a comment about Mr. Yannetti, her lawyer, correct?
Correct.
And what did you say about Mr. Yannetti again?
I hate that man. I truly hate that man.
There he
I
is in
hate
there,
that man.
staring him down.
Okay, so I'm just trying to figure out this defense Jackson. Is he wearing two watches? Like I'm trying to figure it out. Like he's got those beautiful hand sewn cuffs on. See those? And it looks like he's got two watches on.
I bet one's a fitness tracker, the other one's an expensive watch.
So he definitely has a Rolex on his left. But what's on his right hand?
Oh,
You
I
it's
think
a
I see
fitness
it now.
tracker? It looks like he's got two watches.
I mean, you got it, flaunt it, right?
I guess. I'm trying.
If he had a third wrist, he puts another watch on
Another
there.
watch.
truly hate him, correct?
Correct.
You didn't say I dislike him, I disagree with him. You said I hate him, correct?
Correct, sir.
That's a visceral response to someone who's just doing a job, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask it differently.
Sure. Let me ask it this way. Were you upset or annoyed or pissed off that Karen Reed had gotten representation, legal representation, to represent her?
No, not at all.
That's a clear.
Just say it.
Just
say it, because I would imagine.
No, not at all.
Pissed off all the time about.
Because it hampers your investigation.
Yeah.
So it's annoying. Absolutely.
I mean, you have to spend more time doing.
It's her right.
Yeah.
It's her right. Yeah, it's her right. But you were still annoyed and angry about it.
Well, let me ask you this. In August of 2022, you said you absolutely hate it, correct?
I don't know if I used absolutely. Yeah, I didn't use absolutely, sir.
You used truly, correct?
Truly, yes.
How do you feel about him now? He's sitting right there.
I still don't care for him, no.
I still don't care for him.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. So you still don't care for him, but yeah. Yeah. At least he told the truth there.
Yeah.
You know?
I'll let it stand.
It's not his job to like him.
Yeah.
So it's the real only factual information he's given about it.
What did you tell your colleagues that you were looking for as you sat at almost 10 p.m. at night on a Wednesday night, August 17th, 2022, looking through Karen Reed's phone?
I didn't tell them I was looking through anything. They knew I was going through Miss Reed's phone. I provided a inappropriate joke as an update. They knew I was going through location data, text messages, Google searches. But like I had mentioned earlier, I had to stop.
Except Trooper Proctor, none of that really professional sounding stuff ended up in your comments to your bosses, did it?
Again, it was a poor joke.
Is that yes or no?
Did not know.
It did not.
No,
As
sir.
a matter of fact, what did you write after you talked about going through the, quote, retarded client's phone?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No nudes so far.
No nudes so far, correct?
Correct.
And you said that to your bosses.
Yes, sir.
You were looking for naked photographs of Miss Reed on a Wednesday night as you sat in your office at 9:44 p.m., correct?
No, not correct.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever looked for naked
said it.
Yeah.
He said it.
And that's the problem.
Could be a joke. I mean, we say we're.
Yeah.
But he said it.
And that's why you don't talk about that kind of stuff. Even if you wait until afterwards, right? Like, if you're texting about evidence that you find, just stick to the facts. And then afterwards, you go over there and you're at a bar and you're hanging out. Like, did you find any nudes? Nah, I didn't find any nudes. You know.
Get photos of a male suspect
The hard R
that you
word
were
there.
investigating?
I don't look for naked photos in anyone's phones.
But you said you were looking
And it
for
could be
nudes
true.
of Miss
I
Rhian.
doubt it.
Like I had said, Mr. Jackson, it was an inappropriate joke.
Sir, this is a citizen. She's a woman. You were supposed to be objectively investigating. Does your text message to your colleagues at Massachusetts State Police reflect an objective investigation of a citizen?
Objection.
You can get part of that question and ask it again.
He's getting
Do you
angry.
believe
It should be.
that your text messages
Disgusting.
were reflective of an objective investigator?
Objection.
I'll allow that. Do you believe that, Trooper Proctor?
I believe poor jokes have, in unprofessional language, have no bearing on the integrity and the facts and physical evidence of this case.
It's not that they don't have any bearing on the facts and integrity. It's that they have no place in a professional investigation because it shows bias, right?
Objection.
So I have to sustain that as asked. Go ahead and ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
You weren't so much as objectively investigating Karen Reed as objectifying her,
That's what I like.
correct?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Isn't that right?
Rephrase the question, please.
You weren't so much as
understood it.
objectively investigating her as objectifying her in those moments, correct?
Yes. You were absolutely
Again, Mr.
objectifying.
Jackson, it was a poor choice of words and a
Not
joke
what he asked.
that I should not have texted out, but from the start of the investigation, we didn't know what we had.
And your, Trooper Proctor, your point in saying no nudes so far to your colleagues in Massachusetts State Police was to suggest that you were looking for nudes and you'd update them when you found them, correct?
He knows
Incorrect.
it's not true.
Well, let me ask you a question. Did you find any nudes of
Again.
Karen Reed?
I didn't go through the photos, sir.
Did you find any nudes of Karen Reed?
I didn't go through the photos, sir.
You weren't successful in your quest.
I came across text messages from Ms. Reed to another attorney on January 29th, so I had to stop looking through her phone.
So you got
He got stopped before he could find the
sidetracked
nudes.
before you could get to the naked pictures of Miss Reed. Is that what you're saying?
Objection.
Sustained.
To be clear, when you sent those text messages on that group chat, those text messages included, as we said, or as you said, not one but two of your supervisors, correct?
Correct.
Were you ever reprimanded for your conduct in sending that text message?
Objection.
So that's sustained. Do we need to go to sidebar based on what you told me earlier?
We do not.
Okay, so,
I'll ask it a different way.
okay.
Did either Trooper Fanning or Trooper Buchanan dress you down in a responsive text message in that text thread for doing something so abhorrent as looking for nudes or referring to nudes of a female suspect or subject of your investigation? Did that ever happen?
Not that I can recall.
As a matter of fact, in reference to one of the text messages in this same string, your boss, Yuri Buchanan, actually responded to the photo of Mr. Yannetti, didn't he?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
That's in the evidence.
He did, sir.
After you received the photo, that's when you said, I'm, quote, funny, I'm going through his retarded client's phone. Is that right?
Objection.
I'll allow this, but not too many more.
Sure. Is that correct? It's on the top of page
Yes, sir.
2685.
That's correct.
And Yuri Buchanan liked that comment. Funny, I'm going through his retarded client's phone. Didn't he?
I see you laughed at an image here, sir. I can't tell if he like that comment, sir.
May I approach?
Yes.
Copy's faded.
Top 2685. You can use my copy if that helps.
All right. Thank you.
What do you see on the top of that page?
That Sergeant Mechanic liked it.
Like what?
Going through his client's phone, sir.
May I approach?
Yes.
I'll take my copy.
There you go.
So your supervisors at Massachusetts State Police not only didn't ride you for making comments like this, he encouraged it.
Objection.
Sustained.
Yeah, that's true. You can't.
You don't know their intent.
Trooper Proctor, this is your direct chain of command. Is that right? You're a Buchanan?
Yes, sir.
Did you believe that your conduct was a misuse of your authority and power as you were going through her phone in August of 2022?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No, I had a warrant signed by a district clerk, Stoughton District Clerk, to go through Miss Reed's phone. I don't think it was an abuse of power. I had every right to go through that phone.
Did the warrant say anything about looking for nudes of my client?
Objection.
Did it
No,
say anything about that?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, next question.
So that would be an abuse of the power that was given to you by the court, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
I know they're sticking to this, but it's valid. So like,
Trooper
because if that's what you're saying you're
agree
doing,
that the hallmark of any
that's what you're doing.
Yep.
good investigation, as you've been taught and others in the Massachusetts State Police have been taught, is that the investigation and the investigator have to be fair. They have to be impartial. Would you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Meaning that the investigation has to be free of conflicts, right?
Yes, sir.
The investigator has to be free of conflicts, right?
Yes.
The investigation has to be free of bias. Is that right?
Correct.
You can't be biased against the person that you're investigating. That would compromise the entire thing, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Basically, you follow the evidence. You're supposed to follow the evidence wherever it takes you, right?
Correct.
Good or bad, top to bottom, just follow the evidence and report it back. That's how an investigation is supposed to be run, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And these are things that you learn early on at Massachusetts State Police Academy and then in your detective training. Isn't that right?
It is.
And literally, it's part of an oath that you took at the academy that you will quote
It doesn't apply to Boston PD.
They had their fingers crossed.
Yeah.
faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all of the duties incumbent on you as a Massachusetts State Police trooper, right?
Yes, sir.
You swore that oath.
I did.
When you start an investigation, everybody in that investigation should be treated exactly the same. Don't you believe that's true?
Correct.
Everybody, have you ever heard the phrase, everybody's a suspect until they're not? Right?
I've-
Objection.
Sustained.
It's especially important early in an investigation, before all of the facts are known, that the investigator is not compromised by bias, prejudice, right?
Correct.
Most important early in the investigation, because that's when the most things are up in the air. There's the cloud, the fog of not knowing exactly what the truth is, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
In other words, Trooper Proctor, you don't get to pick a suspect and then try to find evidence to support your choice, right?
Correct.
But in this case, it's exactly what you did. isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
16 hours in, you knew
All right, Mr. Jackson, why don't we end for today?
who it was.
This is
Okay.
as good a place as
Okay. So one of the things that he's really good at is doing the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And what the narrative is showing is that he has it out for Karen Reed from the beginning.
Yeah.
16 hours in, he knows she's guilty because he saw the body and that's it. Knew what happened, and now he's going to do whatever it takes to put her away. Without seeing, that's before the medical examiner's report. That's before all of the information came through. Before they even found the shards of the taillight.
Yeah.
So right from the beginning, so 16 hours in, they had a body and witness statements, and that was it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yep. And he knew that she did it. Even though there was no witnesses to it. Nobody saw the body. Nobody saw her drive into the body. They didn't even have the car yet.
Yeah.
At that point. They and at that time, the only information that he had was from the first responders who said he was beaten up. And then he saw the body and went, oh, yeah, that guy got hit. And it was Karen Reed.
Yeah.
And how he put those two things together baffles the mind.
Well, because it's...
No. I'm talking about logically. I'm trying to think of this as like, what if I was a real investigator?
Yeah.
I don't see any even causation between the two.
Other than her own statements. Other than she was like, I might have hit him or whatever she said.
Yeah.
That I'm not too clear as to what she said
Yeah.
to anybody.
Yeah.
So I think that's where they got it.
Trooper Proctor, I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind to turn to tab 2 in the binder in front of you.
We didn't go through this, right?
Can you take a look at the face page of what's under tab 2 and tell me if you recognize that?
Yes, sir. It's a private text thread with high school friends.
And this includes 9 participants, 9 chat participants that you engaged with?
That's correct.
Those participants include people by the name of Bird, Whitey, and Doc, correct?
Correct.
And then there's some other folks in there. They're identified by at least the last 4 digits of their phone number, correct?
Yes.
So this is a group text or a group chat with you and 8 of your high school friends about this investigation, correct?
Yes.
Trooper Proctor, you never thought when you were engaged with these other 8 individuals that this particular set of chats would ever become public, did you?
No, I did not.
I want to take a look at
So he's
page
wearing a metal bracelet
2527.
on his right
If you
hand.
could turn, that's on the bottom right
It's not a watch.
of the document in tab 2. Do you recognize?
I think it'd be funnier if he had 2 watches on. Like, just like one is London time, one is New York time.
I'm thinking of, oh God, what is that? Next Friday, I think was the name of it. It had the guy, the guy from Fifth Element, Chris, the comedian from the Fifth Element,
Yeah.
Ruby Rod.
Yeah.
So, and he pulled down his wrist and he had like 6 or 7 watches on there.
I don't know that movie, but yeah. Yeah.
That's all I can think with it. There's like Swatch and
There's like all these
Timex.
watches all every Rolex he ever got from every partner he made.
And then someone asks him what time it is and he's like, oh, I don't know.
It's got like all the times like London, Tokyo,
Right. Yeah. Eastern Standard, Eastern Daylight Savings,
Mountain time. It's like
Arizona time.
it'd be weird. Like you see under his like real expensive suit, all of the like. Is this a different suit than yesterday?
Oh, yeah, I'm willing to bet it is.
Yesterday was a darker suit.
It was a darker suit.
Yeah,
And this one's more of a blue.
and it's a longer. It's
Longer cut.
longer. He
Yeah.
doesn't have as big of cuffs as he did in the other one.
Yeah. The one he was in originally was like tailored. This one is this one's tailored, but not.
It's not as expensive
Yeah.
as the other one.
I'm sorry, do you have that page in front of you?
Yes, sir.
You recognize that this group chat was taking place on January 29th at about 10:52 p.m., correct?
That was the
Correct.
day of the
And
murder, right?
the person that I'll identify
When-
as
what date did you say?
5051, that's the last 4 digits of that phone number, indicates
I'm sure I think it is the same day.
What is the date of the murder? January 29th.
29th, yeah.
correct?
Correct.
And the person that I'll identify as 5051, that's the last 4 digits of that phone number, indicates Chip name of that BPD cop, correct?
Correct.
First of all, you indicated on Monday that you're Chip, is that right?
Yes, sir.
You responded at 10:53 p.m., John O'Keefe, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So you were willing to tell, just a few hours into an investigation of the death of a Boston police officer, you were willing to tell a bunch of high school buddies details about the investigation, including the name of the victim, correct?
At this point, it's 16 hours later, sir. Not a few.
16 is a few hours, correct? I'm not talking about days later.
It was about 16 hours later, sir.
Correct. And you identified John O'Keefe as the Boston police officer who was fallen in the yard at 34 Fairview, correct?
Correct.
You also informed, if you will skip to page 2529, you also informed these same folks, these same high school buddies, that, quote, all the powers that be want answers ASAP, correct?
Yes.
You knew, Trooper Proctor, that there was brass
They
that
skipped over
wanted
that.
this case wrapped up quickly and
prosecution.
efficient. Isn't that right?
Objection.
I'll allow that. Is that what you were thinking?
No, the people wanted answers, sir.
They wanted it. They didn't just want answers. They wanted answers ASAP. What does ASAP mean?
That's as soon as possible.
Right. And you were texting this to your high school friends, again, 16 hours into this investigation, right?
Correct.
And you knew at that time, Trooper Proctor, that this was not going to implicate in any way, shape, form, or fashion another cop, correct?
Correct.
In this text exchange, let's turn to 2532, actually.
I guess I feel like I'm missing something
What do you mean?
because it feels like the evidence overwhelmingly points to the cops that were inside that house. Like all of it, it makes the most sense for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then at this point, 16 hours later, he was saying, absolutely, unequivocally, absolutely,
Without any doubt.
without any doubt, it was not a Boston police officer.
Yep.
It just doesn't, just so weird.
Because what's also weird too is, I always have it in my mind that you're let's say that all the evidence was pointing to Karen Reed at this time. And if anybody said, could it have been the cops inside the house? The answer would have been, the evidence is not pointing that direction at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Not, nope,
Absolutely not.
absolutely not. He's free.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like I'm like, what is this guy saying that we're not seeing?
yeah, because I also hear what I hear too with cops and all these different shows is that, like, even if the evidence isn't pointing to someone, they still have them as a suspect. Like a murder investigation,
They
the
haven't ruled
boyfriend,
out- Yeah.
the ex-boyfriend, the cousin, the second cousin, did you have contact with this person within 2 months before they died? Then you're a suspect.
Mm-hmm.
It was in front of your house, and they're not suspects. It's like,
And they're acting very suspicious. We'll talk about that later.
talk
but-
about that after this is done. Yeah.
Absolutely
You have that
not.
in front of you?
I do.
In this text exchange at 10:56 p.m., your buddy Bird writes, I'm sure the owners of the house will receive some shit, correct?
Correct.
How did you take that to mean? Did you take that to mean that he could get in trouble?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what my friend was getting at.
Well, you had some idea.
Yeah,
That the owners of the house isn't going to get any shit for this, right?
That's how I interpreted it.
Yeah, you interpreted it like he's not going to get in any trouble. He's not going to be a suspect, correct?
Correct.
And he's not going to be implicated in any way. Is that right?
Correct.
And your answer was one word, correct?
Yes.
What was that word?
Nope.
And then you followed that up with an explanation as to why you said no, didn't you?
That wasn't the explanation why I said nope. I simply said homeowner was a Boston cop too, meaning Mr. O'Keefe was a Boston cop. The homeowner was a Boston cop as well.
The question that preceded your answer, nope, The homeowners at Boston Cop 2 was the homeowner's gonna get some shit for this, correct?
That's not what I meant with that text.
That's what you wrote.
Not what I meant, sir.
All right, let's take it in order. Question. Oh goodness, the homeowner's gonna get some shit for this. Answer, nope. Next text, he's a Boston Cop too. That doesn't sound like an explanation for your nope.
No, that's just saying he's a Boston cop as well. Mr. O'Keefe is a
And that's
Boston
why
cop.
he's not going to get any shit, correct, Trooper Proctor?
Well, he's not going to receive any shit, sir, because Mr. Albert, the homeowner, had nothing to do with Mr. O'Keefe's death.
And you knew this 16 hours into your investigation.
Yes.
Less than a day.
Yes.
To your satisfaction.
To my satisfaction
And
and
you
to the
hadn't
members
been
of my
to the
unit.
crime scene?
So let him finish. We didn't get the,
Yeah.
finish your answer?
To my satisfaction and to all the members of my unit who investigated that day.
Objection. Calls for speculation.
So I'm going to let it stand. Trooper Proctor, you have to keep your voice up, okay? Jurors need to hear you way back there.
Yes, ma'am.
Lawyer interrupts.
The fact of the matter is,
Lawyer
you hadn't been
says
to the
something,
crime
and,
scene.
and then she gets on to him.
He objected. It was like he's on cross and he objected to his own cross.
No, he objected to
his like
his which is appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's why he interrupted him, was because he's speculating.
Yeah,
And you can't speculate, especially on a question that wasn't asked to you.
I've never seen that before, so like that's really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The time you wrote this text, correct?
Correct.
You hadn't been inside the home, correct?
No.
You had you had questioned a grand total of 3 percipient witnesses at this point, correct?
A grand total
Yes.
of 3 people.
2 of the 3 were named McCabe, right?
Correct.
And 1 of the 3 was named Albert, correct?
Yes.
And it's against that backdrop that you wrote, nope, the homeowner's not going to get any shit because he's a cop, right?
That's not what I meant by that.
At
What did you
10:57,
mean by
Bird
that?
goes on to write, he, the homeowner, must have been a puddle to accomplish that. And then he writes, who's the homeowner? And then he writes, I hope not, but I can see it. Correct?
Yes.
A puddle means drunk, correct?
That's a term for it, yes.
In other words, Bird wrote that the homeowner must have been so drunk, so wasted to have killed him. Correct?
Objection.
Have you ever heard that term before?
A puddle? No.
I've never heard that. That must be a Boston thing?
I assume it's like because it's so wet and rainy because of the snow that they use snow-related puns, like Eskimos. They have like 50 different words for snow.
I don't think you're supposed to say Eskimos anymore, but
Really?
yeah,
Why?
I think that's an offensive word. You're gonna get canceled.
You will tweet, and I will get canceled. So, but I'm wondering if it is like if it's a local jargon, based off of like snow slush puddle. I wasn't trying to infer anything on that.
No,
one.
no, I know.
But I need to know about Eskimo now, if that is really offensive or not.
I never heard the term puddle before, but now I'm gonna start using it.
You want to get puddled tonight?
Yes, I do every night.
Do you know what that means? Do you know what that text means?
Just the puddle part, Your Honor. That term.
All right, so he can answer that.
And the puddle part means drunk or wasted, right?
Yes.
And what Bird actually wrote was, he must have been a puddle to accomplish that, correct?
That's what he wrote.
And then you write back, quote, she waffled him. I looked at his body at the hospital, right?
Correct.
You used the phrase waffled about a Boston police officer who had fallen in
They
the
definitely have their
snow
own jargon there.
and died in
I mean, it makes
someone's
sense.
yard.
Waffled.
And you decided
puddled.
to use the word waffled him, correct?
Fall River.
Objection.
So sustained. Ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
Gotta use that in
Did
my
you
common
answer,
vernacular
she
now.
waffled him, I looked at his body at the
Used to
hospital.
a Fall River.
I did answer that, yes.
And then Bird questioned, she waffled him, correct?
Yes.
And then you responded, he was banged up. Is that right?
Yes.
Then a person with the phone number 0095 wrote, I thought he was drunk. Did he get beat up? You see that?
I do.
And you wrote, nope. Is that right?
Correct.
Yet again, this is before 11 o'clock at night on January 29th, 2022, some 16 hours into your investigation. Is that right?
Yes.
And how did they know
So
that he got
before you
beat
ever
up?
went to the crime scene,
Why would you even bring it up?
Yeah.
before you ever went into the house, only having interviewed 3 folks, you had this case nice and wrapped up, didn't you?
Yep.
Yes. Based on the evidence my office uncovered that day, the one shoot discovered at the scene, the one shoot at the hospital, Mr. O'Keefe's injuries, the broken taillight pieces underneath the snow.
Trooper Proctor, I didn't ask for an explanation. I asked, did you, in your mind, have this case wrapped up? Was it cut and dry in your mind?
Yes.
Yep.
Bird then writes,
You think he goes home, he's like, I had a really bad day at the office. This is a bad day.
It is. It is. But then again, maybe don't write that shit in text messages to random people.
While the FBI is investigating you.
I think that's the first one is don't be under FBI investigation.
Right.
So phase one of having a career where you don't have bad days, don't be investigated by the FBI.
Yeah.
Phase 2, don't write shit about your investigation to random members of the public. And then tell people, I don't tell people about facts of random, to random people of the public. But she lied on oath, and basically,
Yeah.
multiple times.
so the owner of the house was a woman. Sorry, was a woman cop that beat him, ? Right? Yes. And then you wrote,
So his friends are just trying to figure out. They're like,
absolutely.
Yeah, they're like, what the hell is happening? Like, okay, so because he's not totally forthcoming. He's not diarrhea of the mouth, to use his own words, to his friends.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to get information. They're trying to figure out, okay, so what happened? The cop, and then did he get beat? And the woman cop that owns the house, did she beat him up? Like
Well, that's what's so weird about that conversation to me is that, so he goes, a fellow police officer was found dead. And the first question they ask is the owner of the house going to get arrested? Where did that come from?
Mhm.
Because that was not included in he didn't say that, oh yeah, they found the body in front of a police officer's house. And then even when that did come up, it was like, oh, so he beat this person up. And it's like, who gets that from there? So their first thought was that the owner of the house
beat him up.
beat him up.
Mm-hmm.
And the owner of the house was responsible. That was the first things that they said. And he's like, no. And then they're like, okay, well, he's getting away with it. And he's like, no, we're not pressing any charges against this guy.
Yeah. So then they thought it was the wife of the homeowner of the house that beat him up.
Right. Because they're like,
They're
dead
like
set
fishing.
on
after talking
who's responsible.
to Canton paramedics. Is that right?
Yes.
And then you said, then I saw the guy, correct?
Correct.
So what you meant by that, Trooper Proctor, was according to you, based on your conversations, your initial conversations with the paramedics, the first responders, you were under the impression that this was a beating death. He'd been beaten to death, correct?
The way it was given to me, sir, was
That's yes
from
or no?
medical.
That's yes
No,
or no?
he's going to answer the question. If you want
Go
to
ahead.
withdraw the question, you can.
No, go ahead.
We entered this investigation with an open mind. It was given to me as a medical situation. And when we saw Mr. O'Keefe's body at the hospital with Sergeant Buchanan and I, we saw his injuries and we were kind of working through how these injuries occurred.
As a matter of fact, both you and Sergeant Buchanan believed that he had suffered the injuries as a result of a physical altercation based on information you received from the paramedics initially, correct?
How can I get aware on this answer?
Yep.
Initially, we didn't know what we had. We knew there was some significant injuries
Oh
to
my
Mr.
God.
O'Keefe. It was still figuring out how those injuries occurred.
Well, you just testified. Initially, we didn't know what we had.
Right.
But 16 hours after the fact, you wrote the following sentence. That's what I initially thought after talking to Canton paramedics. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So initially, you did think you knew what you had. A physical altercation leading to a death. Correct?
Correct.
So when you just said, initially we didn't know what we had, that wasn't quite true. You did at least have an idea of what you thought you had, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
All right. You were aware, initially, that John O'Keefe had suffered a 2-inch laceration to the back of his head, correct?
Yes.
That resulted in a skull fracture, correct?
Correct.
He had a laceration over his right eye, small laceration just under the
So
eyebrow,
here?
correct?
Yes.
Here.
Had a laceration on his nose. Is that right?
Is there
Correct.
He had patterned scratches on
Punches.
his right arm, abrasions, scratches, correct?
Yes.
And he had no injuries below the neck.
Not that I observed, sir.
Not a single broken bone, correct?
Not that I was aware of.
Not a single fracture, correct?
Not that I was aware of.
Not a single bruise below the neck, right?
Not that I observed.
Looks a lot like a physical altercation, doesn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
Bird writes, Bear, let's focus, correct?
Yes.
Who's Bear?
That's another nickname I have.
0095 writes, what does she waffled him mean? And then Bird writes, what's the story, correct?
Correct.
And you wrote, she hit him with her car. Is that right?
Yes.
Have you ever seen, in your experience, have you ever seen a pedestrian who was hit by a 6,000-pound car with no bruises? Ever?
The pedestrian strikes I've seen have been at high speeds,
Enough to
60
knock
plus.
a person out of his shoe, right?
60 plus miles per hour. So I can't recall right now off the top of my head as far as injuries in the past pedestrian strikes I've attended.
Okay. So someone, you indicated on Monday, under examination by Mr.
Hold
Lally,
on. Pause it for a second.
seen-
That's important too. Okay, so what he's asking is, in all of your evidence that you've collected of people that have been hit by a car, have you noticed any bruises? And he's like, well, they're all over 60 miles an hour. Okay. That's fact one.
Mm-hmm.
The second question was, of those people, did they have any bruises? And he goes, I can't recollect what injuries they had. Okay. So if you take those two things, he, one, never dealt with an accident under 60 miles an hour and is unable to describe or talk about, out of memory, what an automobile strike accident looks like.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, took one look at the body and said, it was an under 60 mile per hour automobile strike, and I know exactly what an automobile strike injury looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So, but now he can't remember what an automobile strike injury looks like.
Yeah.
But you made the determination against the medical examiner and against everybody else's firsthand testimony and evidence. You knew exactly what it looks like. So,
Because it was a police officer house.
yeah.
Yep.
a shoe missing,
Correct.
pedestrian strike.
And because Karen is a whack job.
And it's CUNT. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's correct?
Yes.
Those are high speed, extremely high speed incidents, correct?
This has got to be one of the most biased lead investigators
Ever.
on a case. I'm sure there's probably other ones
Oh,
that,
yeah.
that we've seen in a public court of law.
Yes.
60 plus miles an hour, right?
And the defense just got him to lie, too.
Yeah.
The
Multiple
defense
times,
caught him in a lie.
Yeah.
I can't recall all the pedestrian strikes I've been to as far as the miles per hour the vehicle is traveling.
Trooper Proctor, let me ask you the question again. Have you ever, yes or no, have you ever, in your experience, seen a vehicle, pedestrian incident, in which the pedestrian has no bruises?
Objection.
Have you seen that?
I can't recall.
Next question.
He doesn't know what they look like.
After you wrote,
So you have
she hit him
no
with her car,
credibility.
Yep.
5051 writes, oh Jesus, and Bird writes, okay, that's fucked up, correct?
Correct.
And then you wrote what?
Intentional or not?
Intentional or not? Is that right?
Yes.
Your words.
Correct.
0095 then chimes in, gotcha. He was frozen in the driveway and she didn't see him? Question mark, correct?
Correct.
And you wrote what?
That's another animal we won't be able to prove.
That's another animal we won't be able to prove, correct?
Correct.
Trooper Proctor, you knew that there were going to be things in this case, even 16 hours into this, that you just admitted you would have zero proof of, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask it differently.
Did you mean by that statement that this was one of several things that you knew we would not be able to prove?
That statement, that's another animal we won't be able to prove, references the intentional or not part.
You didn't care at that point when you wrote that, you didn't care what you could or could not prove, did you?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Isn't that what you meant?
No.
You had a narrative that you had developed, and you would pursue it no matter what the proof was.
Yep.
That's what you meant by that statement, correct?
Yep,
Objection.
that's
Sustained.
exactly
You can
what he
ask it
meant.
differently.
Did you mean by that, thank you, Your Honor, I didn't mean to step on your words. Did you mean by that statement that you were going to pursue this case no matter what the proof might be?
What I meant by that statement was if Miss Reed backed into Mr. O'Keefe intentionally or not.
Interestingly, though, that statement came on the heels of he was frozen in the driveway and she didn't see him. And you wrote in response to that question, that's another animal we won't be able to prove. Correct?
That's not what I was responding to. I was responding to the intentional or not part.
So you were responding to your own statement, according to
Correct.
Okay. 0095 then writes, what's the name of the Canton cop living in Canton? The other one involved. Correct?
Yes.
In other words, that person was asking, tell me the name of the homeowner. Isn't that right?
Yes.
The guy that's the cop, right?
Correct.
And you ignored that question for a second time. Is that right?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, not one time, not once in this entire group chat did you disclose the name Brian Albert, did you?
I don't believe so, no.
You were actively trying to hide Brian Albert's name, at least from this conversation.
Objection.
I'll allow it. Is that what you were trying to do?
Absolutely not.
But you had no problem sharing John O'Keefe's name with your buddies from high school, right?
Correct.
And you had no problem sharing Karen Reed's name with your buddies from high school, correct?
I don't believe I named the defendant.
Not yet, you didn't. Later in the chat.
Okay, correct.
5051 then writes, the BPD have any jurisdiction here because it was their own? Question mark. Is that right?
Yes.
And a few texts later, if you look down a few texts, at about 11 o'clock,
It's a great question.
you see a text that starts, nah, cat.
I do so, yes.
You responded, quote, nah, N-A-H, nah, cat, K-A-T-T. It's the total opposite. They have to recuse themselves. Same with Canton. Correct?
That text ends as, they have to recuse themselves.
You then text back, I'm sorry, can I have a moment?
Yes.
Flip the next page.
I see where you're at, sir.
How did you end that text?
Same with Canton.
Meaning Canton has to recuse itself also, correct?
That was my understanding.
So by 11 p.m. on January 29th, 2022, there was no question in your mind, Trooper Proctor, that the Canton Police Department was recused from this investigation in all particulars, correct?
That they had taken a step back from participating, yes.
Right. Well, there's one way to put it. They've taken a step back from participating. Another way to put it is they recused themselves completely, correct?
Correct.
They were not going to be, at least in your mind, they were not to be. 5051 writes, but I assume you guys are out to make it cut and dry since it involves cops, correct?
Yes.
Out to make it cut and dry.
Because it involves cops.
Wow.
I mean, and that could be read both ways too. Like, you got to make sure that this is cut and dry because you don't want anybody thinking that because it's a cop involved that he could be implicated, you know, like you want to make sure that you have all your, you know, I's dotted and T's crossed. And he's like, yeah, but then doesn't actually do all the evidentiary collection he needs to do.
Yep.
And Bird writes, something stinks, correct?
Correct.
And then Trooper Proctor, you responded, yeah, but there will be some serious charges brought on the girl. Isn't that right?
That's right.
So in that text exchange, you were saying, yeah, we're out to make it cut and dry, correct?
No.
You didn't write, yeah, we're going to follow the evidence wherever it takes us. You didn't, did you?
I did not write that.
You didn't write, yeah, we're going to make sure that we investigate this thing fully and thoroughly before making any decisions. You didn't say that, did you?
I did not.
You wrote, yeah, but there will be some serious charges brought on the girl. Isn't that right?
Correct.
And the reason you wrote that is because you knew, as the text above it says, this has to be cut and dry because it involves cops, right?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that. Is that the reason you wrote it?
No, Your Honor.
And then you indicated, we're going to put serious charges on the girl. Who did you mean by the girl, by the way?
The defendant.
Karen Reed?
Yes, sir.
So the way that you were going to make it cut and dry, pretty simple. Just pin it on the girl, right?
Objection.
Is that right?
Absolutely not. Follow the facts and the evidence from that day on the 29th. Everything led to Miss Reed hitting Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle.
But that wasn't the question that you were answering, was it? We're going to follow the evidence and make sure we do this thoroughly. The question you were answering was, I assume you guys, you, Trooper Proctor, and your team are going to, quote, make it cut and dry since it involves cops, meaning Brian Albert, correct?
Incorrect. Doesn't matter to me if the homeowner's a cop, if the victim's a police officer. Myself and everyone in my office investigated this case that Saturday, had an overwhelming amount of evidence that Miss Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe. So it didn't matter to us what their occupation was.
We'll see. Let's keep reading, shall we?
That does not track at all.
Yeah.
5051.
It's like if you he can't follow the own conversation that him and his friends had, and it's like we can follow this. This is not hard.
Gotta be. I could only imagine what internal affairs at BPD are trying to get out there. Correct?
Correct.
Meaning, this person, 5051, was opining, at least in your mind, you interpreted that as being Boston police are going to have a lot to answer for, given the fact that another Boston police officer was found dead on that officer's lawn. Correct?
Objection.
What were you thinking?
Can't speak to the mindset to that comment. I wasn't sure how to interpret that one.
All right, next question, Mr. Jackson.
Then 5051 changes gears. And he writes, she hot at least? Correct?
Yes.
And what was your response to that?
It was respectful, I'm sure.
From all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job.
From all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job. That's what you wrote, correct?
Correct.
16 hours into this investigation,
Yes.
into your objective and unbiased, thorough investigation, correct?
Correct.
But sir,
I really like this defense attorney. I really do. He is awesome. He really is good.
You know, he does also have like a pool of just really bad evidence against them as well. It isn't like he
has a lot to work with
He has
here.
a lot to work
But
with.
he is good.
Yeah, he's good.
sir, you didn't have all accounts, did you?
No. Not 16
What I
hours
meant
in?
by that was
Did you or did you not have all accounts in your investigation?
the accounts we had was Miss Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle, discovered taillight pieces at the scene. Those are the accounts we had.
The
No, you
accounts
didn't.
you
And then some.
had, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The accounts you had, Trooper Proctor, were from two people named McCabe and one named Albert, who happened to be the homeowner and a Boston cop. Those are the accounts from percipient witnesses that you had, correct?
There was another additional witness that we had, investigators had interviewed, Miss Roberts as well.
And from all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. That was your decision 16 hours into the investigation, correct?
Yes.
And the other decision that you made and the other determination you came to was my client, Karen Reed, was a whack job, right?
Yes.
What else did you say in response to, she's hot at least? Or she hot at least, question mark?
Yeah, get it right.
So following that text, I responded, yeah, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass.
Yeah, she's a babe. Who's the she?
Miss Reed.
Weird Fall River accent, though. You talking about her, the way she talks?
The accent.
Yes, the
And
way she
no
talks.
ass. Now you're talking about her body, her physique, correct?
Yes.
You think that's appropriate?
Absolutely not.
Then Bird chimes in with a little comedy. Not newsworthy then, correct?
Correct.
In other words, well, if she doesn't have an ass, nothing to see here, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
That's going to be my new comment. She didn't have an ass. Nothing to see here then.
Are you newsworthy? You're
I
newsworthy.
go now.
My God. These guys.
5051 says, oh, she's skating, right?
Oh, she's what?
I didn't catch that. Skinny? That's what I heard him say.
I'm going back a little
Is
bit.
that like skinny and skinky at the same time, maybe?
He
a weird-
says,
Yeah.
oh, she's skating, right?
Correct.
And what did you write after that?
Katie?
My response was zero chance she skated.
And then what did you write?
Skating. Oh, she's skating. And he says, 0 chance she's skating. Like she's going to escape from prosecution.
I don't think so.
Because he
Oh,
says
oh,
0
oh.
chance she's skating. So I think it means she's going to get off. And he's like, nope, there's no chance she's going to get off.
She's fucked.
She's fucked.
0 chance she skates.
No.
She's fucked, right?
Correct.
You decided on the 29th of January, 17 hours into this investigation, you decided individually, Trooper Proctor, you're not only going to put it on the girl, you decided you're going to make sure this is cut and dried, and the way you're going to do it is to make sure that she's fucked. That's what you were saying.
Objection.
All right, so that's sustained. You can, the content's fine. You have to ask it differently.
17 hours into this investigation, Trooper Proctor, you made the decision that you were going to put it on Miss Reed, didn't you? put the case on Miss Reed. She was going to catch the case, correct?
No, absolutely not.
Well, that is what you're
What
saying.
did you mean then when you said she's fucked?
If you think she's guilty, then yeah, you're going to make sure she
After the
catches the
day's
case. Like,
investigation with
Yeah.
multiple
Yeah.
troopers conducting multiple tasks, and a debriefing at Canton PD amongst detectives in my office, we went through the overwhelming amount of evidence against Miss Reed that she struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle. That's what I meant by that comment.
What you meant by that comment, Trooper Proctor, was you were going to make sure because 5051 had said she's going to skate. She's skating. When you said 0 chance she skates, she's fucked. What you meant was, I'm going to make sure, I am going to make sure Ms. Reed doesn't skate. She's fucked. That's what you meant, isn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
And then Bird decides to chime in, good, no ass bitch, right?
Yes, that's what he wrote.
Wow.
And how did you respond to Bird saying, good, no ass bitch?
I laughed.
Thought that was funny, did you? Trooper Proctor? Thought that was funny?
It was unprofessional of me. That's something I shouldn't
yes.
have done.
Well, I think we all know it was unprofessional. It was a lot of things. I'm asking
Yep.
you, did you think it was funny?
No, according to my response at the time, apparently.
It actually is pretty funny. It is very funny.
Then you sent a picture, just to add to it, to pile on, of Miss Reed being arrested, correct?
I don't.
Yep.
would you like to have this guy be your guy trying to pin you?
I'm not sure if that came from me, sir.
Let's skip to 2543.
Okay. Question.
Mm-hmm.
What is that guy
God,
doing?
okay, I was just looking at him, trying to figure out what he's doing. So, because he has a computer, he has a mouse and a monitor, but no keyboard. And he also has what looks like maybe a foot pedal.
Is he the one controlling the
He
camera?
might be.
Is he the camera guy?
He might be.
But he's got papers in front of him.
Well, it could be also too, the like different notes on like which camera is where and
There's just one camera. It's not like the other.
yeah, but placements as well. I don't know, but he looks like he should be part of the.
Defense.
No, because that's just the podium where they're all talking. So yeah, he's off to the side. It is a weird place for him to be. But let's see what happens when he moves, because he's moving the mouse right now. Yep.
Are you there, Trooper Proctor?
Yes.
The date is now February 2nd, 2022. And a person by the name of Doc writes, is that chick a smoke? Correct?
Correct.
Who's the chick?
Miss Reed.
And you write, E-H, right?
Yes.
And then you write, nutbag,
Not
as
bad.
Chief would say, correct?
He's
Correct.
checking off
Chief.
lists.
A friend of mine.
And then you write, what?
She's got a leaky
No, I know what he's
balloon
doing.
knot.
I know who that is. I know what it is. There's a projector screen. He's the one feeding the data to the projector screen. So what he's doing is they're going through the evidence, and as he's talking, he's going to the next page. So when they went over to it before, you can see the same text message up on the big screen
okay.
as what's in each of them. Yep.
Okay, got
So
it.
that's what it is. So they're going through,
Evidentiary stuff.
and since they have to put that in ahead of time, he would know. So he's going to the next screen. Check. I'm going to there. Yep. So that's what he is.
Trooper Proctor, explain to the jurors what a balloon knot is.
You're essentially, I guess, your
Look on her face.
rectum area.
Your anus?
Yes.
That's what you were referring to about Miss Reed?
Yes.
And you were making fun of her because you believed at that time that it leaked? That's how you were treating Miss Reed? Yes or no?
Yes.
And then you followed that up just to make sure you cleared up any mistake about what you meant with leaks poo, correct?
Objection.
All right, so I'm going to strike that. You could get this in, but do it the right way, Mr. Jackson.
You followed that up with the phrase leaks poo, didn't you?
I did.
Again, another reference to Miss Reed's medical issues and medical conditions, correct?
Correct.
Specifically focused on her anus, correct?
In reference, yes.
So he's admitting to several HIPAA
Were
violations
you aware
as
at
well.
the time that you wrote this that Miss Reed had suffered a colectomy surgery, very serious surgery?
I was not, sir, no.
Were you aware that she had had 10 surgeries in 18 months, several years prior?
He knew.
10.
Why would you say that she
I was not aware of that.
There's no, that is
Were you
not
aware
a
that she
thing
had
that people
serious
say.
medical issues,
Yeah.
gastrointestinal medical issues that she suffered with, she was a victim of for years? Did you know that?
Objection.
Sustained.
But you decided that you were going to take another shot at her and talk about her anatomy. 1 second, sir. I'm sorry.
You can't hear the objections.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Christine. You decided that you were going to take another shot at her and talk about her anatomy as a balloon knot, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
At this point, Trooper Proctor, Miss Reed was just reduced to a punchline to you, wasn't she?
Objection.
Sustained.
That's exactly what it was. He was
Yeah.
joking about her with his friends. That's a good line.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what it was.
Well, she was a punchline.
Yep.
Yep. He's objectified her, made her into a punchline, into a joke.
Yeah.
Knew she was guilty.
Said she was a nutbag. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's it. God, that's attorney so good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you weren't done yet. This chat doesn't end yet, does it?
Nope.
No, sir.
You had to check.
Let's skip to 2543. On the same date, February 2nd, 2022, about 4:15 p.m., a person by the name of Whitey wrote, "What are you guzzling on?" correct?
Yes.
And you wrote, "Nothing, writing a warrant." Is that right?
Correct.
What are you guzzling on?
God.
Here's some great one-liners from this testimony.
I just don't even know how to respond to that question.
Like, there's a better response to nothing. Writing a warrant.
Or nothing right now.
There's like a whole bunch of other things you could respond that way funnier than.
I have a few offensive things in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you guzzling on?
Whitey then shares some sort of a video, correct?
Yes.
You remember that video being of the 1980s band Warrant?
I don't recall the video he sent.
0095 laughed and then wrote, "Wait, why does her asshole leak?" Correct?
Yes, that's what he wrote.
And then what did Doc write in response to that?
Objection, Your Honor.
The objection sustained. I'll see you at sidebar. Take that down, please.
It was up on the screen.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was details of her medical record.
No, it was someone else. Someone else messaged it, so they were probably referring to
Her medical
some.
condition.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I'm thinking of much worse things about.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
They didn't want the jury to see that.
Because it didn't come from him, so it shouldn't have been.
Reference to,
Take that down.
Yeah, there he is.
without reference to the
Yeah.
specifics of what was.
I'm going to see counsel at sidebar.
Sure.
So he does. He probably does work for the defense. That guy at the table.
You are unmuted.
So do you think whatever it was, they put it up on purpose so that the jury would see it?
Oh yeah.
And whatever it was, we can't see it, but the jury was able to see it, and she's like, "Take that down right now."
Yep.
Just it must have been really offensive.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it was. But again, it's just because that's what your friend says, that doesn't mean anything. So
Yeah.
I felt no matter what was occurring in that conversation, that should have been taken
Trooper
down.
Proctor, without getting to the specifics of the words used in the following, in the next exchange that you're looking at, it's fair to say that your high school buddies then continue to discuss Miss Reed's medical issues, correct?
Objection.
That's sustained. Come on, Mr. Jackson, that isn't what you said you'd ask. Go ahead and ask the question you said you'd ask.
Was there a continued discussion that finished on this subject matter?
Yes.
On Monday, you indicated that
It must have been
your
bad.
conduct in this case, and specifically your conduct as reflected in these messages, how did you put it? It did not affect the integrity of the investigation, of your investigation, correct? That's what you
Correct.
said to the jurors.
Correct.
Do you know what the definition of integrity is?
Doing the
Not
right thing
you.
when no one's looking.
It means the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you believe that integrity means being honest and having strong moral principles?
I believe that's part of it as well.
Part of it.
Do you stand by that testimony that you were showing strong moral principles in this investigation, sir?
In the investigation part, absolutely. Through these text messages, absolutely not. They were juvenile and regrettable.
You know he's
You
going to
say
do it
they're
again.
juvenile and regrettable. Sounds like you're almost apologizing to the jury.
After he gets promoted. After the Boston police promotes him.
Yeah. He'll make sure that he tells all the people underneath him.
For your conduct.
Don't say it in
Is
a
that what you're
text.
doing?
For those texts,
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
It's true.
Trooper Proctor, have you ever apologized to Miss Reed?
Objection.
Sustained.
Makes you wonder what he said at the waterfall.
Oh my God. I totally want to go to the waterfall now. It sounds like it's such a great name for a bar.
It is. It is.
As the lead investigator in this case, you were tasked with the responsibility of making sure that the investigation
Or a
remained
bar called
free
the
of any
Balloon Knot.
conflicts of interest. That's part of your job, correct?
correct.
The puddle. The puddle would be better.
Oh, yeah.
The puddle.
Well, that's where you get out of the waterfall, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a puddle.
Throughout the pendency of this investigation and this case, you've denied having any conflict of interest in this case. Isn't that right?
Correct.
In fact, a couple of months ago in February of 2024, you testified in a different proceeding. Is that right?
Yes.
You testified under oath in that proceeding on February 1st that you did not know any members of the Albert family or McCabe family.
And this is the grand jury.
Correct?
Yeah. So I think this is the end of the text messages.
Yeah, it is.
So do you want to end
Yeah. So
and
let's
kind of discuss?
yeah. Yeah. So
Let's take it down. Well, I think I want to talk about where we think this is going to go. I mean, do you, after knowing more about the case, and we still have another day or two for the Commonwealth to present, and then it goes to the defense.
right.
But based on these horrific text messages from this lead investigator,
Yeah.
where do you stand on the innocent guilty?
Well, neither, to be honest with you. So nothing from the text messages shows me she was either innocent or guilty. What it does show me is that there is a complete lack of following the evidence for anybody within the department. And I think that's what it really shows, is that he's not a lone wolf kind of, like, it's not just him that is making these statements and dehumanizing an
It's
individual.
his whole chain of command.
Right.
That is, yeah.
Right, because I think the way that the defense brought this about was really good, and for a lot of different reasons. So what they were showing was in the text messages that this is systematic in the department.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what's interesting too is it's not always what is said, but what is not said for defense or prosecution. So the prosecution never brought up the fact that the Canton police recused themselves from the investigation.
Mm-hmm.
So they knew we can't investigate this because it involves another officer.
Yep.
So they already know that there is this view of we need to make sure that we're not involved with this. But there's also okay, sorry, I'm kind of skipping around because there's so many little things that are involved in this. But after he's showing that the Canton police recused themselves, they're doing the right thing at least when that should warn you that this is something to take very important, and he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, you interviewed 4 people, and 3 of them were family members in the house.
Yep.
But none of them were the homeowner or the wife of the homeowner. It was 3 random people in the house. What?
Yeah.
You didn't even interview the police officer that lives there.
Yeah.
And you made a determination.
Yep.
It's the fact that he didn't even interview the person, the homeowner of the location where the body was found is insane to me.
Yeah. Yep.
That feels like step 1 of an investigation.
Yeah. I mean, there's a dead body in our front yard.
Yeah.
We would be the first
not
ones.
right now. That was yesterday. I'm gonna keep making that joke, so just.
I add.
But if there was a dead body in our front yard, the first thing I would think is, well, be ready to have our house searched.
Yeah.
And us investigated.
Exactly. And none of that happened.
Yeah.
None of that happened.
And at worst, call a lawyer. Like if I was them, call a lawyer, and then the police can come talk to the lawyer, get a warrant, and then, do it that way. Because if you open your doors and they find something else, and then
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my recommendation: is that if there is a dead body in front of your front yard, call a lawyer immediately.
Call a lawyer, yeah.
But they didn't. They made other calls to the police chief and everybody else. They didn't get a lawyer, and they're police officers.
Mm-hmm. They know.
They know.
They know.
They know that if a lawyer shows up, then all of a sudden everything is documented, and they have to deal with it differently.
It's just so wild. And so why do you think this story has gone so viral?
So if we look at the timeline of why things have gotten to where they are, the video that I was watching from El Jefe, he was talking about that he heard about this story. So what he heard was a police officer was found dead, and the girlfriend was under arrest. And it probably in his mind, he was like, okay, yeah, well, some shit happened, and
yeah,
she hit him with a car. Kind of just like, no big deal. I mean, not in his world, so he's, not going to pay too much attention to it. And then what came about was the turtle guy. Apparently there's a guy, and I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. There's a YouTuber named something Turtle, and he was doing this kind of investigation. He thinks that Karen Reed is innocent, and started to find this new evidence, and then that channel came across El Jefe's path. And then he started to say, well, wait a minute, there's more here than just, if he's right. Because what he said was this turtle guy would make a really good investigator. Because what he was able to do was to look at it as a whole and start chipping away. And he said that's what's important for police work, is that you take all of the evidence, you ask everybody everything, you look inside the houses, and then you start chipping it away, and then you take out all the crap is basically what you're doing. Well, this person said this, well, we can disprove that. So you chip, and then you get left with that core of information. And that's what this guy was doing. And then that's when he started to find out, wait a minute, what she's saying is jiving. Because I'd imagine that in the court system, a lot of people say, well, the police are framed me, they're out to get me, blah, 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 blah. And then they start doing the investigation and they're like, no, this is, we have the knife, we have the videotape, we have a confession, we have, everything's lined up. He's just saying this stuff. But when you start looking at the evidence on this, it's like, wait a minute, she could be right. And then you take that little bit of information, she could be right, and then you try to prove it. Like, maybe, is she right? Is what she's saying, does it have any weight? And then every time you find new evidence, you realize, yes, there's not a lot disproving the fact that what she's saying is true. And I think that's the part of all of it. You're seeing them almost like a movie script forming in front of you.
Yeah. Yep.
As you go.
That's why I think this is so popular, is the fact that you've got these historic.
I thought you were going to say something else there.
Yeah. A historic part of the country that historically is corrupt.
Yes.
We have movies and TV shows. We already talked about that.
Yeah. And again, there's a reason why there are movies and TV shows, in our opinion.
Because historically, the corruption, and I was thinking about this the other day, what are the two most corrupt police departments stereotypically that we know about in the United States? And in my mind, it's Boston.
And L.A.
Not L.A., no.
Really?
L.A., they're just violent. They just go in and beat the shit out of everyone.
Good point.
I think it's New Orleans, the Louisiana parish.
So you're talking about modern day.
And I mean, from the 70s, the New Orleans police department has always been really corrupt. So when I think of just corruption, I think of Boston and New Orleans. When I think of violent, I think of LAPD.
Right.
LAPD just come in and just shoot the dog and kill.
Well, what about
everyone.
NYPD?
So
especially during the 80s.
During the 80s, yeah, they were like LAPD. They'd go and frisk everyone and kill people and plant evidence and, all that kind of stuff.
Well, to me, that's the part of that corruption.
Yeah.
It's the violence, yes, but then they're like,
I don't hear about that so much anymore like we used to, I think.
That's what I mean. That's why I was asking. Is this modern, you mean?
Modern, yeah.
So if you're talking about modern in the past 10, 15 years, yeah, I'd say what you're thinking is correct. That I don't know much about the Louisiana, but definitely Boston is like.
Yeah, so they're playing into that movie trope stereotype.
Yeah.
They're as the Boston corrupt, Massachusetts corrupt, this historically corrupt organization.
Yeah.
And then we're seeing it in real time, where we've only seen it in movies before of that happening.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me is that the information that's being supplied is being supplied by the Boston Police Department. So it isn't like we're getting this information from a third-hand source that said this, that saw this. When El Jefe broke it down in a timeline, it makes it worse.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it better. It makes it worse. So if you just take what they say on face value, it's highly questionable. But if you start applying evidence to it, it's like it goes from, highly suspect to what the heck is going on? Like one of the key pieces of evidence that they were talking about is the I know this goes past the text messages, but I wanted to talk about this because it's the level of corruption is almost evident. Where you can usually go, yeah, I can see where they might be covering that up, but it's like, what the hell? So let's talk about the homeowners, right? So one, they owned a German Shepherd, and if you notice, I used past tense. They rehomed the dog 2 days, I think it was, or the day.
I don't know. I don't know that.
It was
timeline.
soon after the police officer was found dead. And there was what looked like bite marks from a dog on.
And so if he was gone like this to protect himself, like if the homeowner was punching him in this MMA style, like hitting him.
Right.
And then the dog attacked him, and so he went like this because the dog thought they were fighting.
Yeah.
And he was going to protect his owner, so then he went like this, and then the dog attacked him, and he went back and he hit his head in the basement.
In the basement, yes. The basement where they dug up all the concrete and got rid of it.
And then they sold the house.
And then they sold the house at a $50,000 loss than what the fair market value would have been.
In this market where homes are
skyrocketing in price.
Yeah.
Yep. So they got rid of the house cheap. They dug up all the basement concrete and disposed of it. And they got rid of the dog shortly after.
It's so weird.
So just those three things right there. Sorry. So just those three things right there, like those are all, that is to me evidence against the homeowner.
And the police didn't even look at that.
Right.
And then another question I had about this whole thing is why in the world would the Commonwealth go to prosecute this?
Oh, yeah.
Like that, it's like very clear. She's got these high-priced lawyers that are very effective. Why would they go through with this?
Well, so
why would they expose all of this?
Yeah. So one of the things is that the DA is an elected official. And he's been there for 17 years, I think, is what they said. So I believe that, well, one, let's go back just a little bit, because I'm trying to remember what the evidence was. I think it was a phone and a SIM card were destroyed, and under testimony, it was the DA that told them to do that. So the DA is telling officers to get rid of evidence.
Wow.
Okay. So, and this is under oath in a subpoena. So this is not hearsay someone said. This is someone saying it under oath. So that's one of the things. And so to me, it feels like we need to prosecute this, get this done, and push it through. So the problem
and they were not expecting this.
Yes.
Social media storm.
No, I don't think they were expecting the phone records to be brought up.
Because they didn't know the FBI was investigating all of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that was the information that we found out, was that because we watched this text message, and the question that Nicole had was, why is this here? Like, if you're doing an investigation, you don't go, well, okay, officer, give us your personal phone information so that we can enter it into evidence. That just doesn't happen. So why is it there, and why was it just kind of given up? Like, nobody would have agreed to it. It would have been a fight, and et cetera, et cetera. So apparently the Boston Police Department, I don't know if it was just their office or the whole area. I don't know. But apparently they were under federal investigation for corruption
before this even happened.
Yep. And there's a law, and again, I'm terrible with names, but there is a law that says that if the FBI find evidence and they are not a plaintiff, or they're the ones under litigation. Yeah, that's right. They're not a litigant. That's the word. If they are not a litigant, in the investigation, then they can give the evidence that they collect to a third party that are involved in this crime, which means we have gotten all this evidence that shows that there could be corruption or a cover-up within this investigation. We are not being sued by any of these people or suing anybody in this or being accused of anything. So we can give the evidence, and they did. They gave the evidence to the defendants and the plaintiffs as well. So defendants and the prosecution, sorry, as well. So that's the reason why they have all this information. It's because the federal government had it all already collected on them for their own probe into corruption.
Wow. Okay, so what do we predict? We predict that she's going to get acquitted?
Yeah. So, well, let's let, what I want to see is the evidence about the brake light and the recording that didn't record 42 minutes because it was on a stop. They said the police video is under a motion detection recording system.
Oh, right. And so it didn't record. So you can't see the car as it's coming in when it was taken to the police station.
And that has been proven wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They proved that camera does not do that, and it records full time 24/7.
So
every time they say something, it's not even like
easily disproved.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of hit on something. They didn't expect this kind of interest in this case to be what it is. But when you step back and you look at it, how could it, they're not thinking things through.
No.
I mean, they're just like one step. They're just thinking what's right in front of them.
Hey, we've put this on other people before in the past. We'll just do the same thing.
It just worked, but they haven't really thought it through.
They weren't under FBI investigation at the time.
FBI investigation. As soon as they got those FBI texts and they realized they were under investigation, they should have just been like, "We're dropping."
I think it's too late at that point. I honestly think that the FBI were just sitting there with a button waiting to go. Because if they would have sent it before they were, okay, we're going to trial, they would have dropped it and everybody would have swept it up underneath. And I honestly feel that the FBI are watching this case going, where is this going to go? Because what's going to happen is because they're going to trial, that means that everything can be opened up for cross-examination, right? So now that they've started the trial, all evidence on both sides has to be brought to light. If it didn't go to trial, then they could have squashed the evidence, and gone, no, never mind. Destroy all the evidence. She's not guilty. It was an accident. Move on with our lives.
Well, the FBI would have still been investigating and still would have had that.
But they wouldn't have had the evidence of this trial. So they're using, my feeling, this is what my gut's telling me, is that they're letting this go so that it opens up all the evidence. So now they're going to be able to get the evidence that they collected, that the police department collected, and show even further corruption in the system.
Okay, so if we're thinking things through, she's acquitted, and then does the FBI come in and clean house?
I think so.
Okay, say she's convicted. What does the FBI do at that point?
So I think it depends on what we find. So one, you would have to look at if she's found guilty, because there could be multiple things going on here. One is that she could be guilty, and there also be a corruption case going on here.
And it could be like these text messages, as offensive as they are, was really just Chupacabra venting to his friends. And we always say men need to have more male friends. He had a lot of male friends. So good for him.
Yeah. But,
and he was just being a cop, doing his cop thing.
And I don't disagree with that. Like I've known enough cop people to know that this shit happens. You just, you get a vent. But because there's really only two outcomes here. Either you think she's guilty or she's innocent. But if she's guilty, it still could have been accidental.
Mm-hmm.
She is guilty of whatever occurred led up to his death, whether it's be murder 1, manslaughter, first, second, third, whatever, Or 2, she didn't hit him at all, had nothing to do with it.
But what is the FBI going to do? So if she's convicted and the jury comes back and they're like guilty, what is the FBI going to do at that point?
So yeah, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah. Okay. In past cases where you have discovered that a police officer that has given evidence is guilty of corruption, they have to re-examine every case that he does.
Right.
So they're going to have to go back on this one to see, she was found guilty.
So a lot of guilty people might get out because of his misconduct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And that's the other case too. So this might go to, it's definitely going to go to appeal
if she's found guilty.
Yeah. This could be thrown out in appeals. It could lead to a plead out, probation, manslaughter probation, which that would be not good for her either, to be honest with you, because I think if that occurs, she would have to move, get away from the police officers at that point.
Yeah.
The police officers are just going to have it out for her.
Oh yeah, she needs to move. She needs to get in a Boston.
Anyways, yeah, but especially that.
Yeah.
If she's found
dead.
Yeah. It'll definitely look like a heart attack or self-destruction at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But so that would the way I'd see it. If the FBI comes down, finds corruption in the department, then all of those cases are going to have to be re-examined. And I think, you're going to find either a lot of guilty people are going to be let go. But I also think, too, what you're going to find is a lot of guilty people are not actually guilty. Guilty, yeah, I see what you're saying. Guilty that in a court of law based on the evidence that was manufactured or, incorrect.
Yeah.
Where they had it, there was another person involved, but they were like, we like this guy, so let's pin it on him. Yeah. So I think a lot of people that are found guilty but are actually innocent would be let go. And a lot of people that were actually found guilty, are going to get let go as well.
Yep.
Due to their misconduct through this investigation.
Yep. Okay, so what are we going to do next? I don't know if we're going to live stream the defenses because it is so boring.
It is really boring.
It is just so boring. Even though the defense is much more engaging than the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth is
angry.
The Commonwealth is so boring.
Yeah.
But we may do a live for the reading of the verdict.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. And I have a feeling that this is not going to end with the trial's end. So I think because the next question is going to be, what is the FBI investigation of the Boston Police Department? And if it's the police chief involved, it's not his chief. He said his supervisor.
Yeah.
But where does that end? Because most of the time, this is systematic. This is not one or two people in the department. If the FBI is looking, it usually goes more than that. So I think you're going to get more and more information about the police department and their antics.
Yeah.
As we go.
Yep.
So that would be an interesting one too. That's the one I'm really interested in, to be honest with you. So, we'll see. But there's a lot more that I found out that we can't cover. I mean, we could talk for another 3 or 4 hours just on the stuff that we found out.
And I just want to go over the text messages.
Yeah.
You puddle. Are you puddled?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So guys, lot to process here, a lot to take in, and if we find out anything more, especially about the text message, we'll keep you guys informed. But
right. Like and subscribe, sublike
and sublike and like subscribe.
And like subscribe.
Don't be a sheep.
Don't be sheep. Think for yourself.